validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Look at this. Can you get off of my wire? Lord, when you have little ones, you just be wanting to bust them in the mouth. All right, so so here on This and That, while we do not let the sunrise without going live, we do not always start on time, and that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, mash those reaction buttons while you're here, hit the notification button so that you're notified at the top of the hour as to when our quarter till the next hour. We're phasing ourselves into daylight savings time. That's what we're doing, slowly but surely. So if you want to be here at the top of the show when you want to see what's going on, we have updates, we have stories that we got to tell you guys about, things that we've experienced and everything. Hitting that notification button lets you know as soon as we go live. But if you kind of have an idea as to when we go live, between 11:30 and 11:45 Eastern Standard Time until we get to daylight savings time, at which point it should be 5 after 10 Eastern Standard Time after daylight savings time gets started. That's the goal. Now, it might phase out and go back to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, but that's the goal. The goal is 10:05 come November. So as we get closer to daylight savings time changing, we're going to be letting you guys know that. so that you guys can prepare for coming a little bit sooner. Now, we have different topics every night of the week. I just found a topic. I have so many topics up there, guys. We are booking shows in October now. We are booking shows. So, and we're halfway through October right now. And I think because this week I'm actually trying to make sure that I have all the shorts videos up there for you guys, accessible, because there's a lot of them that I'm releasing. But as I make sure that I have the membership content available for you guys, this week it looks like we're working on between the 15th and the 25th of October as it stands. So we have a lot of stuff that we're going to be giving you guys information on to make sure that you guys are successful. And we are about 45 days out, close to, because the majority of September, with the exception of our Mondays, because we get our content set up for Monday, the weekend before Monday, so that it is relevant to the moment information. So we want to make sure that you guys pay attention to that. Now, today we're supposed to be talking about a 30-year-old money reality check for 2026. So if you're in your 30s, you kind of know this, but we're going to be giving you guys some detailed information as to why it is and what you can potentially do to change some of this stuff. But that's what our main topic is for today. Now, as I ask you guys on a regular basis, I know you get the prompt on YouTube. We ask that you guys stay on topic. So while I won't kick you out of the show for asking a left field question that's not about today's topic, I will be refraining from acknowledging any questions that are not related to the topic matter. Because as I explained on yesterday's show, the day before, when I was talking to V on TikTok, that respect and appropriateness as adults is that, you stay on the main topic. If you have an unorthodox topic, write it down, come back to the Sunday night show, and you can throw that up there on a Sunday night show. Or if it's themed with the show of the day, you can ask it on that day, which is also another reason why it's important for you guys to hit the notification buttons to be notified on which shows that are coming up. Because if you have a relationship question and we have a relationship topic coming up, you guys can cover it live on a podcast on that day. Now, if you really want the information today, send me a message and I'll get back to you on that. But if you want to be acknowledged on the live stream, it is more appropriate for you guys to have your questions related to the particular topic of the live stream. So, with that being said, we do have a little bit of news. Steven, I know Steven's here. As soon as I see the thing pop up, I'm like, there goes Steven. Steven, I had did some deep diving on that McDonald's subscription thing, and I found out that would more than likely be fake news. I have not verified any franchise or corporation from McDonald's or any other fast food restaurant, for that matter, that is doing memberships for unlimited food. So I seen it and I talked to you guys about it, and I said, well, hypothetically, had that been a thing, it would have took a lot of effort to run through it. But it is not a thing that I can verify and prove. So I wanted to make sure, because what we do is we bust myths. So when we go through the fake news that you guys have to deal with on a regular basis, we deep dive and do research on the things that directly impact your ability to make, save, and invest money. And then we explain to you guys which information is true and which information is not true. So we're not on every single TMZ style, gossip style topic. We're on the topics that directly impact your money. And something like McDonald's offering a subscription, that had that been true, that would have impacted your income, because those individuals that take advantage of that would be able to get all the food that they could carry for their friends and family member for $54 a month. So, it's like, are they going to set limits to how they go about getting this unlimited one order per person per visit, or whatever the case may be? But it turns out to not be true. So that's why I talked about that. So for the rest of you guys, we have different topics every night of the week. We have Sundays questions and comments from the fans. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is business and politics, where on Monday we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. We are not a political channel, so we do not care about either side. We need Democrats like we need Republicans, because the Democratic Party has put money back into the pockets of the poor. The Republican parties allegedly keep our constitutional rights in check, where one side has an idea that the other side objects to. Down the line, the opposite side has the same idea, just worded it differently. So, we need both sides. So this isn't a political channel for the sake of anything. This isn't a pro or anti Donald Trump channel. But when something happens, like Donald Trump just recently said that they're going to be changing Lake Ontario to Lake of America, I think branding is overkill. But between the Gulf of America and Lake America, Lake of America, he's doing a good job of making sure that all of America's territories are identified as the water, the airspace, the land, the trees, the trash on the ground. All of it belongs to America. All of it. So stuff like that. Like, I just come and tell you guys what's going on. And if it interferes with your ability to travel, because you're like, oh yeah, hang a left at Lake Ontario. It's not Lake Ontario no more. Eventually, Google Maps is going to have that identified as Lake of America, which for the last generation is going to be completely confused about that. The next generation gonna be born right into it, so they're gonna treat it as normal. But for the rest of us, it's like, nah, I don't feel comfortable with, because Lake of Mexico, what was it? The Gulf of Mexico has always been the Gulf of Mexico for like 40 something years for me, 70 something years for Michael. We're not going to feel comfortable with calling the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America. It doesn't roll off the tongue for us, because we haven't been conditioned that way. But GPS map is going to tell you, hang left at the Gulf of Lake of America, and we're going to be like, where is that? They're going to have to change all the signs and stuff. So when he does certain things like that, and we talk about it, it's not because we're for or against him. It's because it's going to interfere with how you do what you do. So that's kind of what we do there. Steven says Canada will hate us for many decades to come when he is done. Well, I just finished covering the tariffs that the tariff war that we're in right now. We almost used to have free trade between us and Canada, and now we're throwing tariffs back and forth. But as I told you guys before, Donald Trump uses money to control people. And the fact is that is how the wealthy does business. It's not that Donald Trump is any kind of a tyrant. If he wants something done and you depend on his money, then he will not let you have that money as easily until you do what you're told. Even though, yes, the tariffs do impact the American people, the fact is that the country that is experiencing the tariff is impacted as well, because their products on the shelf are harder to come by. They have to pay as they cross the border, even if they offset the product's cost onto the customer. But the products are going to get sold slower because the customers can't afford to pay for it. Doesn't matter if we can't afford to pay for the American version of it either. The fact is that everybody's economy slows down when tariffs are slapped on both sides of the fence. So, everybody's not making profits, so Canada's going to hate America because Canada didn't want to do whatever it is that America wanted Canada to do when America was trying to get Canada to cooperate on the border. And that's where this started last year, 2025. There was a discussion about border security. There was some stuff about trafficking and all of this other stuff. Drug and human and everything to that effect. And Canada's side of the border was supposed to have manpower there that's not there. And as a result, Trump was like, tariffs. And Canada's like, you can't tariff us. Instead of saying, oops, my bad, let me fix my mess up. Oops, my bad. No, you can't do that to us. Tariff back. I'll fix you, all the alcohol off the shelf. So I mean, it's a retaliatory temper tantrum in my observation, and that's gonna negatively impact our ability to make money. And that's why I talk about it. It's like, look, but when the people at the top start having money wars, the people at the bottom are impacted by it. So going to Canada with a US visa, like, our president is going to make our trips to other countries less comfortable because people are going to be looking at us like we're horrible Americans. And I mean, right now, Donald Trump just taxed hockey sticks, bro. Like, so he literally, that's like going into the hood and taxing Mad Dog 2020 OE low riders blunts. That's like, could you imagine having a 200% tax on all marijuana products? Not tobacco products, marijuana products. Like, they're like, nope, if it can be used to smoke weed, we're gonna put a 75% tax on it. Oh, you will be pissed. For everybody who smokes weed, they will be pissed. And that's why, we cover these things, right? Because it doesn't just change the way you make and save and invest money, it also changes the way you travel. Because if you go to a country that is in a political conflict with your local government, any rally or protest demonstration can involve you in it. You fly to another country that thinks that America is horrible, and the radicals in that city will find out that you are an American, and they will use you as an example. You don't want to be a part of that. So you have to be careful where you travel, because certain countries, if you travel there, and that's one of the reasons why, like, Iran is like a no-fly zone, not just because they're dropping bombs on them, but because if you go there as an American, even if you went to China first and then found a way to go to Iran after that using a visa from the Caribbean islands, the fact is that if they find out that you are an American, if it slips out of your mouth that you are an American while in Iran, you can find yourself not as safe as you would have been had they thought that you were from China, right? So you got to be careful with where you go and what you do, and that's why we talk about these things. You got to plan ahead. Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make, save, and invest money. I talk about different ways for you guys to make money off the computer, because no matter what you guys got going on, it takes a lot of mental fortitude and a lot of physical energy to get up out of bed and go to a brick and mortar business and get paid to stand there. You're getting paid for your presence. And if you work hard while you're there, that benefits you. Well, that benefits them. That doesn't benefit you. But if you are working for yourself, if you're working from home, you can roll out of bed and go in the living room, or roll out of bed and go into another room, and you can sit there, you can get your work done, save money on gas, you don't have to deal with the people that you don't want to deal with, and your direct to customer interaction would be a lot better, because you're not going to be experiencing customer complaints because somebody else screwed up. It's your product, it's your service. Everybody's willing to take accountability for when they screw up a customer engagement. But when it is not my fault, I just showed up during shift change and you're arguing with me about something somebody else said or did, I can't deal with that. What I can do is I can rectify your complaint to the limits of my authority here, or I can go back and finish doing what I was doing. But cursing me out doesn't help. Just because we wear the same uniform doesn't mean that I got to get the same treatment. I came to help you. We don't need to have that kind of discussion on our jobs if we work for ourselves, right? Because if you're the manager of the situation where you hired people to do the work, you would hopefully have started learning how to curate people and decide which ones are good for working for your business, and then make sure that their direct interaction with the customer base is satisfactory before you lead them to their own devices. So ultimately, you would probably have them doing the back office work, and you being the face of the company, having direct to connect with the customer experience to make sure that your quality, your product's quality is the way it's supposed to be, right? But then if you're working for yourself, if you're the only person on the job and you decide to travel the world, that's where Wednesdays come in at. We start talking about different countries that you can invest in and potentially live in, where as a digital nomad, you can take your income and go to certain countries. So we just talked about a country yesterday, as a matter of fact, where they live off of $225 a month. If you went over there with $3,000 a month, you'd be living like a king in Indonesia, in Bali, matter of fact, which is a whole lot different than trying to figure out how your money's going to get to where it needs to be at in America when $36,000 a year is not going to get you very far. I see you, Jala. He's got a lot of tears there. Thank you. I don't know, like you're crying with joy. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, after that, today being Thursday, we do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We talk to you guys about self-improvement, personal development, with some relationship topics, socialization, negotiations, building a brand, as we just finished discussing how important that is. And then double back in, we talk to you guys about raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, termination, and then basically how to build your 20 and 30-year plan. Whatever it is that you guys want to do in your life, you first of all have to figure out what you want to do. And then another thing that I don't always talk about, why do you want to do that? Because if you're doing it to show off for other people, it's not going to benefit you, because if you don't get the right response off of your actions, then you're going to feel like that effort was wasted. If you did something to get a validation from society, and society overlooks you, right? They're too busy to deal with you, right? You're no longer going to value your action or activity. So say for example, if you wanted to get you a specific kind of car to impress people, and then nobody's impressed. Maybe 2 or 3 people might be impressed, but not as many people as you thought. You thought that you were going to have heads turning as you pull up, kind of thing. And that's not what's happening. At the end of the day, you're going to lose value in the item that you purchased, because you didn't purchase that car because you wanted it. You didn't purchase that item because you needed it. You didn't purchase that item because of your value in the item. You purchased that item because of what you thought other people would value you as. And when it doesn't happen that way, it turns out to be a waste of money. So we really talk to you guys about figuring out exactly what you want and why you want it. Because when you start thinking about stealth wealth versus loud wealth, we waste a lot of money. The bottom 25% of Americans waste a lot of money on showing off how much money we made by buying expensive things. And buying expensive things, name brand clothes, name brand shoes, name brand jewelry, diamonds, everything like that, shows that we had the money to pay for that. So you going around with a $70,000 necklace on, or $100,000 ring on your little finger, and all this other stuff, that shows that you had the money, past tense, the money to buy that item. And for somebody who still doesn't have the money to buy that item, might misperceive that as this person is wealthy. No, that person is wasteful. Because if you can spend $100,000 in one night and you still can't pay your rent in the morning, you're broke. But stealth wealth, nobody knew you had money. Like Steven said, a friend of his that's been his friend for a long period of time just donated $1 million to a local college. He didn't even know his friend had millions to do that with, because he looks like everybody else. Stealth wealth has levels of financial security where you don't have to worry about where your money's coming from. You don't have to worry about your future, because like where your assets are and what your assets are doing for you. When you decide that you want to travel, you have the capabilities of getting them going that direction. And that makes more sense, because you've got the money to back your decisions. They say that money talks and BS walks, right? And that logic comes from our capability to say what we want and articulate, facts, logic, reason, sometimes law, right? Then it's not just what we know, it's who we know. We can name drop people of value, people who have a brand that is respected in society, and try to pull certain scenarios when we have no one of credibility to defer to, when the person that we are communicating with does not care about logic or reason or even law in some situations. Usually those exact same people are still capable of being compromised by money. You buy the situation. When buying the situation values you. So individuals with wealth have more power because they have more capabilities to control the situation than people who don't, right? You have to beg the landlord not to evict you if you don't have enough money to pay the rent. But if you bought the property from the property owner, no one can evict you. You're no longer fighting over parking if you bought the property and now this is reserved exclusively for the property owner, right? That's the difference. You know, you walk into a franchise and somebody's disrespecting you and you buy the franchise, you fire that employee, that's a different level of power. It's still wasteful decision making because if you're doing this specifically to spite another person, again, validation, but wealthy has that capability. For the poor, we just argue with the manager until the manager gives us what we want. But again, building your brand, it's like, look, if you're not getting the service that you need from this establishment, you remove yourself from the establishment. That's it. You know, debating with them all day, cursing them out, raising your voice, that doesn't benefit you. You know, because you are looked at as a disgruntled customer. It doesn't matter if the establishment had poor service, right? Oh, the eclipse is happening. Special shout out to Michael. The eclipse is happening right now. I didn't even know that. I'm going to be out there after the show because I had some stuff that I was planning on doing tonight. Anyway, so how long is the eclipse supposed to be? Is it? I just noticed it's dark as fuck outside. There is not 1 ounce of light outside right now. I just noticed that. Somebody take pictures of the eclipse and send them to me because by the time I finish the show, the eclipse should be over. We will be here for a few hours. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the things I tell you guys. It's important for you to figure out where you want to be at in life, because knowing what you want to do and how you're going to do it is going to be some of the best things for you, because it helps you plan and prepare for that. Now, as for today, since we're supposed to be talking about being in your 30s, the reality of our money that we're dealing with right now. If you're 30 years old, right, and you're looking in the mirror at that person that's staring back at you that's supposed to be an adult, you know, you've been working for the better part of a decade, you know, your responsibilities, you've got a routine. You know, according to highlight reels you scroll through every day, that you should have it all figured out. And that's what we were supposed to be getting to today. But then in this quiet moment, imagine maybe about 2 a.m., you know, when you can't sleep, you look at your finances and there's a brutal sinking disconnect. There's a gap between the life that you're projecting and the numbers staring back at you from your bank account. And it's going to feel quite depressing, as a matter of fact. That there's a sense you are running in place while everyone else is kind of sprinting off. Like there's almost like if you've ever had this feeling where, as accomplished as you are, you may feel like you haven't done enough, while you look at the people around you and they have accomplished so much, right? You feel like you should be further along in your life, and you wonder, where is all the money going? And you ask yourself, am I on track? You know, am I failing? You know, and especially for those of us who maybe dropped out of school in high school and took 10 years off and then decided to go back to college, return students, individuals that graduated from high school, had some family problems and took a decade off to take care of the family, and now going back to college. Life's not where you want it to be at, and now you're on a college campus with people 10 years younger than you doing the exact same thing you're trying to do, or something similar. And you just wonder, like, what the hell has happened to all of my time? And I'm going to tell you guys, look, this is not another video, not a live podcast that's going to be about just saving money, you know, and I want you guys to understand that this is going to be one of those reality checks. The deep, honest and sometimes uncomfortable audit that separates real financial stability from a life spent worrying about money. So we're not here to just talk about the vibes. We're here to talk about some of the numbers. And I know that this might sound similar to some of the other shows when we were talking about how it is tough to be 30 years old. But we're going to be talking about some cold, hard questions right now about where your hard-earned money is coming from. And then we're going to be actually tracking some long-term security and asking that real question, are you just getting by? Because most of us feel like we are. But it could actually be a third scenario. What are the exact moves that you guys need to make right now to kind of change this, to build a truly stable financial life going forward, something that you haven't had the capabilities of doing in recent times? So I want you guys to make sure that you stick around, because clarity is something that you're about to get, and clarity can also be somewhat of a game changer. Now, I want to take a pause before we start getting into these numbers. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe and mash those reaction buttons while you're here. Show support to the channel on TikTok as well as YouTube and Twitch. And let's get a critical idea going here. I want you guys to think of your financial lives like building a high performance car. Now, a lot of us, especially in our 20s and our 30s, get obsessed with the engine, the flashy investments, the side hustles, the get rich quick schemes. They won't go very far. You know, everybody wants that fast pace. We want it now. We want to get the money now. That we need the money now in certain situations. We have more stuff to pay for than we have enough money to pay for things, right? But they're trying to bolt a V8 engine onto a rusty old chassis with ball tires and no brakes, and this is a recipe for disaster. So 30-year-old money reality checks is going to be about building the chassis first, then upgrading the engine. And the chassis is going to be your financial foundation, your net worth, your emergency savings, your debt structure, your savings rates, and your basic protections. The engine is going to be the high growth strategy that comes later. And this is going to be why we have to reject most common matrix of success, which is supposed to be your income. Your salary is a vanity matrix, because showing off how much you make, and this is an issue that we have with those, you know, red pill, blue pill, black pill podcasts, where, you know, women really demand that upon first contact that a man identifies his employment and his income level, because she believes that that's not an intrusive question, because she believes that it kind of tells who he is. It's true, it does. But it's a really intrusive question. It's a really intrusive question. And it's not because he's broke. Wealthy people don't talk about how much money they make. A wealthy person might articulate that they affiliate with, own, or operate a specific company. They're not going to come and tell you, oh, I have a multi-billion-dollar industry. No. What they usually tell you is that, you know, hey, I'm the owner of Johnson & Johnson. Or that's it. You do the research and know that Johnson & Johnson is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You know, if they drive a Bugatti, they just drive a Bugatti. You know, you are the one that pays attention to what trim the Bugatti is. You know, if I drive a Dodge, I drive a Dodge, not a Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger or Hellcat or Demon or whatever the case may be, because those are trim models for different sports packages. If you drive a Dodge, you drive a Dodge. If you drive a Ford, you drive a Ford. If you drive a Tesla, you drive a Tesla. You know, the help needs to know what trim it is so that they can know how to fix it. You know, so the thing is that when a woman asks a man what his income level is, right, what you do for a living, she wants to know what the two ways that they check your money. What do you do for a living? Do you have a job? That's the first thing they want to know. And is it stable? You know, and then depending on what kind of job you claim that you have, they can identify or estimate exactly how much you make. So if you're a freelancer, you probably don't make that much money. if you work for a chain restaurant or something like that, you have a stable income, but it's not very prestigious. Uh, they're going to assume that it's low pay, but it could be high pay, especially if you work on night shift. Uh, if you have a prestigious job, they assume that it's high pay. Because if you say you're a lawyer, they're going to expect you to be like six-figure lawyer when in fact you could be making less than a teacher as a lawyer, especially if you're a lawyer doing pro bono, if you're a court-appointed attorney, public defender, you're in a situation where you're not getting paid a lot of money, right? It just really depends. But saying I'm a lawyer has more prestige than saying that I'm a janitor in a law firm. So it is a very intrusive question, and women will not admit that it's about as intrusive as a man asking a woman her bra size on first contact. It is the relevance in both of those questions have nothing to do with getting to know the other person as far as their value in the other person's life. But women will argue different. They have yet to do so on show, but they would like to argue different from what I've seen, because it shows the financial stability. But if you're making plans with the person based on how much money he makes and how stable you think his job is, you're making plans with this person based on his assets, not based on his character and his personality, right? But that's why I want you guys to understand that your income, your employment status, that is a vanity matrix. That is something that you can self-identify that you're a cop or a judge or something like that. You self-identify this vanity matrix that actually does not give you personally any observation as to how much or how little you have succeeded in your own personal life. So it will show how much money passes through your hands, money that comes in, that goes out the door on bills, not how much money you keep. It's going to be a measure of activity, like how much money you spend, like where you go and what you do, not progress. Like I told you guys earlier, somebody who could spend $100,000 in a night shows how much they did, not how much they still have. So the world is full of people that are earning six figures who are one missed paycheck away from complete disaster. And their financial chaos in their lives, the chassis of their lives, it's actually broken. So the single most important number in your financial life is going to be the one that tells the unvarnished truth, and that's going to be your net worth. It is the ultimate measure of what keeps you in a stable position. It answers one quick question. Of all the money that I've earned, how much do I actually have to show for it? Out of all the things I've spent my money on in my life, exactly how much money do I have to show for it? So here's a thesis for everyone that we're about to do real quick. 30-year-old money reality check is going to be a financial audit first, and then the strategy framework second. We're going to measure your net worth, protect your downside, eliminate dangerous debt, raise your savings rates, benchmark your retirement progress, and only then can you start layering on the more advanced wealth building systems. Now, this process isn't about shaming you. It's going to be about empowering you. Now, you can't fix a problem that you refuse to look at. So today we're going to look at it. We're going to build that chassis. So first act is going to be auditing yourself. This is something that you should do. You should have already done if you've been watching the show. Especially since they're talking about the government shutdown that's pending for October 1st. They were talking about getting the budget together to make sure that everybody got paid at least until after the elections, because midterm elections is supposed to be, I think, November 23rd. If you guys don't like the way things have been, you should probably vote against everybody that's already in office and put some new people in there. If you guys don't care, then Steven says I do stuff. That's the answer. Well, you know the funny part about it is, like, so for that, so let's take that same answer. You say you do stuff, and I take my life, for example, in that I do stuff fancy. Now, I have been capable of securing generational ownership. That's something. I have been able to secure the separation of debt to assets. That's something. Now, if I say that I do stuff, right? Traveling the world, or not the world, traveling the neighborhood, because most of us kind of really go within a 2 hour round trip distance for most activities, unless guys are chasing girls. Then we might spend as much as 4 hours, 2 hours getting out there, 2 hours getting back, maybe an extra hour and a half hanging out with the girl because we're expecting to get laid. But for the sake of like actual like daily like mundane effort, we typically like a 1 hour one direction radius is what we typically try to do, right? And our adventure is an hour and a half or 2 hours with no traffic in one direction. So it's not really traveling, right? But we can say that we've partied, we've hung out with friends, we've visited family, we've visited family functions. You know, we have seen some things that are outside of our local neighborhood, but you say we do stuff, been on a cruise ship, maybe been on a plane, maybe flew out of the state, maybe flew out of the country, maybe not, maybe been on a boat and not seen the shore from any direction. But the thing is that after you finish doing stuff, like how much do you have to show for it? That's the real question. And the answer to that question is not so much I do stuff. The answer to that question is all I've got to show for it is the memories that I forget. Because there's a lot of stuff that you've done in your life that it really takes deep thought to remember, like what I did and what all happened. You might remember the cliff notes, like, oh yeah, I can remember one time that I had to jump out of a plane. But like anything less exciting than that, you might have forgotten. So a life of memories, a scrapbook of memories, is not nearly as important to your future as the capital available to support your future. Now, yes, the past is important. Living life to build memories is important, but you have to live the financial stability first, build that financial stability, and then build the memories. Right? Because if you build memories first, what memories are you going to have if you've been working on the same shitty job for 10 years? What you have is 10 years of misery to remember. If you're living in a shitty neighborhood for the last 10 years, you have misery to remember. If you've been in a shitty relationship for the last 5 years, you have misery to remember. If you can look back and the only thing that you can remember is involving yourself in surviving and self-preserving yourself from chaos, all you can remember is predominantly chaos, where there were a few moments of peace and tranquility throughout decades of chaos. Nevertheless, today, your ass is still broke. Right? So you gotta do an audit for yourself. So we're gonna build a financial dashboard. We're gonna be doing this stuff pillar by pillar. You guys can grab a spreadsheet. You guys can do this on your Google Notes. You guys can do this on your iPad or your tablet. You guys can open a PDF file on your computer, grab a pen and paper, whatever. And what you want to do is you want to don't just hang out with me on it. You guys want to actually write this stuff down, because your net worth is going to be one number that cuts through the noise of income, job titles, and Instagram lifestyles, or TikTok lifestyles for that matter, YouTube lifestyles. The formula is deceptively simple. Your net worth is equal to the total quantity of assets that you have, the monetary value of the assets that you have, and your total liabilities, meaning the cost of the bills that you have to pay for whatever it is that you owe money for. That's it. What you own minus what you owe. And ultimately, bankruptcy court is going to operate the same way. Because when they sell off all of your assets to cover your debts, whatever you have left, if you owe more money than you have assets to cover, then you're typically not able to cover all of your debts, but you are officially bankrupt. So even without having to file for bankruptcy, if you learn this particular matrix, then you can determine if you are financially bankrupt on paper right now today, or if you have a little bit of leverage in your net worth. So let's break it down. Your assets are going to be anything that you own that has monetary value. Now, for this exercise, you want to be brutally honest and conservative about your items. So if you've got clothes that are worth $1.25, how much somebody's willing to pay for that is its monetary value. Okay. So let's start off with liquid assets, because that's easy. Liquid assets, this is going to be the cash or the things that can be turned into cash quickly. Stuff that you could probably run off to a pawn shop and get you some money off of. The money in your checking account, the money in your savings account, the balance in your high yield savings account, the current value of your brokerage account, stocks, ETF, mutual funds, the current value of your retirement accounts, your 401ks, IRAs, all of that stuff. If you have a trust that's got money being allocated to you, if you're a beneficiary of any type of regular reoccurring payment that's happening right now, not something that if a specific person were to perish, that you might get this check. Not that. That's not liquid assets. While that is something that is available to you, it is not liquid assets. Liquid assets is something that, like, you get paid every week. That's the money that you got coming to you. Then we can list some physical assets, stuff like your house. Your house is an asset, but it is also a liability when there's a mortgage attached to it. But we're separating the value of the house versus the mortgage against the house. So let's pay attention to that. Now, you can use a conservative estimate of your current market value from the majority of real estate apps that are out there. However, Zillow has a Zestimate, which is Zillow's estimate on every property in America. And it can be a starting point to give you an idea of what your house could be sold for, not exactly how much it is worth today. And this is a way that you can get a free estimate of your property without having to pay thousands of dollars for an appraisal. But this could be a strong starting point. If you knocked off about top 5 or 10% off of whatever Zillow believes your house is worth for a more realistic number. So if you've got a house that's on Zillow marked up to like $250,000, you might want to take $25,000 off of that and assume something closer to like $170,000 to $175,000. That would be the more realistic observation for the house. Next, your vehicle. You can use services like Kelley Blue Book to find private party sale value, not the trade-in value, not dealership value, and then be honest about it. It's probably going to be less than you think. When you're looking at Kelley Blue Book, you want to put in the realistic mileage for your vehicle, not the mileage you wish you had. You want to look at the physical condition of your vehicle inside and out, and you want to select the option lower than what you think. And why do I say that? You have excellent condition where we exaggerate. And because we exaggerate, we want to downplay our observation. Excellent condition means that there's literally no damage on a vehicle. Moderate condition would be some damage seen somewhere, whether it's a cigarette butt on a seat, a stain somewhere that won't come out, a dent on the inside or outside of the car, a cut on the door frame or the dashboard, a scuff mark or a scratch that won't come out, anything that is not, it was made that way, you're automatically in moderate damage. It doesn't have to be like 30 things. It could just be one scratch that can be visibly observed on a vehicle, and it's automatically moderate. You think about fair condition, where you can clearly see, like, yeah, this car could use some cosmetic work, whether the paint's peeling, faded, tint peeling, anything to that effect. You know, tires worn down, rust observed somewhere. And then poor condition. It's been in a couple crashes. It's beat up. It's got a lot of functions not functioning. The sensors are all over the place. I can't afford to fix it. Like, so whatever you think it is, one step less. Now, so if you think your car's in pretty good condition, it might be in poor condition or fair condition, because you're looking at the visual aspects of it, high mileage, and then, like, is your check engine light on? Is all the lights on your dashboard on? Do you know that there's a bunch of sensors that need to be replaced that aren't being replaced? And then you want to do something less. And you want to pay attention to that. Now, that's how you're going to gauge your vehicle's worth. Now, there's going to be two different options. There's going to be like it being sold versus it being traded in. You want to do private selling, not dealership selling. And then there is a gauge from the most expensive to the least expensive. You want to grab the value that is in the bottom 25 percentile, anywhere between market price, which is in the middle, and below market price is you trying to sell it to the first person that's willing to buy it, because everybody haggles downward. So if you look at the price of your car, and after you follow this information that I gave you, and you assume that the car might be like around $5,000. Yeah, but the person that's trying to buy it from you is probably going to try to buy it for like $4,000 or $3,000. Again, the bottom 25%, which lets you know how much a car is worth. Michael says, someone smoking in the car, I'm not buying, period. Well, that's beyond the point, Michael, because the point of the matter is that you are valuing your car. You're not shopping for somebody else's car. But if you are a smoker and you recognize that non-smokers are less likely to purchase the car, smoke damage in your vehicle, if there's a constant smell or odor or something like that that's in your car, you just know that that's going to lead your car's condition more towards the poor condition range, because somebody else buying it would have to get the smell out of the car, and a non-smoker is not going to buy it, which means it's going to be harder for you to sell. So with that being said, the car's worth less. So you're going to reduce your perceived value of the vehicle. Now, another way you can do this with getting your car assessed, if you don't want to guess and you've got some free time, you can always take your car down to Carfax and they'll tell you how much your car is worth. They'll do a scan on it. They'll run tests on it. They'll take it for a test drive. They'll come back and tell you, with all the shit that's wrong with your car, this is how much they're willing to give you for your car. And now you have an actual piece of paper that shows exactly how much your car is worth. And that service from Carfax is free. So you don't have to put any money towards it. But it helps you determine how much your car is worth. He said dead bodies in the trunk. Bro, well, first off, I have never seen somebody sell a car knowingly having dead bodies in the trunk. Usually they set that car on fire. So, you know, if the car's got fire damage, probably shouldn't buy it. But again, we're not talking about you buying it. We're talking about you assessing the value of the car that you're driving. Big difference. How much is it actually worth on the market if you were to put it up for sale today? I've got a car right now that if I were to put it up for sale right now, it'd be worth parts. I've got another car that if I were to put it up for sale right now, it might be worth about $1,500 less than what I bought it 2 years ago, even though I probably put about 15,000 miles on it. And the only reason why I put 15,000 miles on it was because the other vehicle that now is worth parts was taking in all of those extra miles. Now, the other valuable things that you want to calculate is, you be very careful here. Useless things that you have is stuff that You got things lying around that you probably should have thrown away that you didn't, right? Just because it's here doesn't mean that it has a value. It just means that, you haven't thrown it away yet. So you have certain things that have no monetary value, meaning that outside of a garage sale where somebody might give you 2 quarters for it, it doesn't have reasonable value for you. Like, I can look at the majority of my wardrobe and see it as a potential donation before I see it as like I could bring it somewhere and sell it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about that. Now, when it comes down to jewelry, art, other collectibles, unless you have a certified appraisal for them, it's often best to leave these things out, because these are items that are only worth what someone is willing to give you for them. And if they have not been appraised for a monetary value, it is perceivably worth less, meaning that it has no monetary value. If you have a buyer, that's when it starts having value. These are going to be items that are be considered illiquid, meaning no money there, and their value is going to be subjective. So for our purposes, we're going to stick to the big, easily valued items that you guys can pay attention to. And all of those numbers, that's going to be the total quantity of assets that you have. If it has no value, why do we keep them in the junk drawer? There's going to be more than one reason why we keep stuff that has no value, because it might have what is called sentimental value, because there's memories tied to the item. We have a psychological detachment theory, where removing this item removes a portion of our personal identity, and we don't want to do away with that specific item as of yet. Some of us hold on to items that are broken, that no longer function, that we want to replace with a similar item, and we keep the old item to remind us what needed to be replaced. It's a luxury item that we don't necessarily need, like, a TV or a projector or something to that effect, and you keep the old one, and every time you look at that old projector, like, I need to replace that, like a placeholder. Then we have items that we hold on to from our ex. We don't want to let those things go because we don't want to emotionally detach from our ex fully while that person is no longer in our lives. The items that are left behind are memories that we don't want to forget. And then we also have the last reason why we have, or one of the last reasons why we hang on to old things, is because we have reason to believe that it is still functional and it does still have the capabilities to serve a purpose, even though that purpose is not served right now. For example, old universal remotes, power cords, electric cables, wires to the cable box, VR wires, batteries. There's all kinds of stuff that we hang on to, even with no real intrinsic value to it. Some of us that grew up from back in the day might still hang on to our 8-track tapes, CDs, and cassette tapes. We might still hang on to our nuts and bolts, stuff like that. He said, you hit it on the head. Then we become a hoarder. Yeah, we do become hoarders, because we hang on to a lot of things for emotional reasons a lot of the times, but then other times we hang on to certain things because we believe that it could serve a purpose. And we keep all especially men will keep all the nuts and bolts and any accessories from an item. Like matter of fact, I just had a weed eater that I replaced, where I told you guys, like, it didn't work. They sent me another one, and the new one is compatible with the old one. So what did I do? I stripped the old one and kept every valuable piece off of it, that is compatible with the new one, so that when I chuck the old one, I have extra parts for the new one. So now I've got twice as many parts because I had a brand new trimmer that broke. They let me keep it. They gave me all my money back, and I invested it in an upgraded version of the same kind of trimmer. So now I've got twice as many parts for one trimmer because, again, my observation is I'm probably going to use this down the line. If I keep the trimmer for a number of years, the observation is that I'm going to replace the blades out. So having twice as many blades benefits me. You know what I mean? So this is what we do. We figure we're going to use this. And down the line, the truth is that we actually sometimes do. Because if you keep nuts, bolts, nails, screws, all of this other stuff, a man's garage full of tools is him buying a tool for one thing and then keeping that tool forever. Eventually, something's going to happen, and you're going to need that tool again. Something's going to happen, and I'm going to need those nails. I'm going to need those screws. I'm going to need those bolts. You end up with the nuts and bolts section of Home Depot in your house somewhere where you're sifting through a drawer or a cabinet or a bucket or something like that full of just nuts, bolts, and screws and everything like that you collected. And you do that because your personal value to that is that you're probably going to use it again. But we are, in fact, hoarders. And that's one of the reasons why we have to determine what has value to us and what doesn't. Now, should you throw away those nuts and bolts and stuff that you can reuse? Probably not. Because when you think about the 25 cents to $1 that you're going to spend per bolt to replace those old screws and bolts that you have lying around, it might make more sense for you to hang on to them just in case you need them. But when you're calculating your net worth, that's going to be some of the items that doesn't have monetary value. Old remotes and stuff to that effect don't have monetary value. Once you open a pack of batteries, nobody's going to buy like open batteries from you. Those are things that have no monetary value, right? So we're special shout out to OG Kicks on the YouTube side of things. So, you know, when we're determining what our net worth is, we could actually do some spring cleaning, because if you've got stuff that has no value in your house and you don't have a purpose for it right now, if you cannot find a future purpose for it in your house, then you need to remove it from your house. I would say before you spring clean your house, you go to your storage unit and spring clean your storage unit. If there's anything in your storage unit that does not have a future purpose, where you're storing it in the storage unit to preserve it, then you should remove that out of your storage unit. Then take things that are in your house that has a future purpose, but that purpose isn't here today, and you can take it out of the house and put it in a storage unit. And the only reason why I say do that is because, say that you've got, like, for example, I had appliances in the storage unit that were very expensive appliances. The appliances didn't take up the whole storage space. So anything else that could fit in that storage space that I'm already paying for, I can utilize that. Extra clothes or other items that, you know, are kind of in the way right now, but they have an intention of usage in the future. And then you can take anything that you have in your house that doesn't have a today purpose but has a future purpose, and put it into that storage space, which gets a lot of the clutter out of your house, and then actually find yourself having more space. So while we're evaluating your net worth, you can be spring cleaning your house, or since we're working on the fall summer solstice kind of thing, we can be summer harvesting our house, okay? Trying to get everything together. Now, for the other side of our equation, let's go ahead and discuss your liabilities. And this is going to be every single dollar that you owe to someone else, including friends and family members, right? You want to list all of them without judgment. Credit card debt. You want to get the balance from every single credit card that you have. Student loans, the total remaining balance, your car loan, anything outstanding on that. Personal loans, payday loans, buy now, pay later balances, your mortgage, anything remaining on the principal balance, any other debts that you might have, medical bills. Uh, you want to calculate all of that stuff. And I would go so far as, I don't know if I have it on this list as far as total liabilities. If you have subscriptions for stuff, anything, YouTube, the this and that membership, anything that any reoccurring bill that you're paying for, OnlyFans, anything that you're paying for on a regular basis, P-Hub, if you're paying for that, the Triple Diamond Platinum package, Fortnite, GTA 6 subscription, PlayStation Online, anything that you're paying money to on a regular basis, you want to write those things down because that's your liabilities. Then you want to do a final calculation. The total quantity of assets that you have versus the total quantity of liabilities that you have. That number, that's your net worth. So it might be a positive number. For those of you that not carrying a bunch of student loans, it might be a positive number. But it might be a negative number, especially if you have student loans. Because think about this. If the quantity of stuff that you have, especially when you're dealing with, let's say you're dealing with a mortgage, the mortgage might be, let's say you have a $150,000 house, the mortgage might be $140,000 left on it, right? Just the house alone, you have a $10,000 net worth, because the value of the property minus the cost of the mortgage is $10,000. But what say you $20,000 worth of medical bills from a car crash that you were just recently in? That means that you're a negative $10,000. What say you've been going to college for the last 3 years and you might have another $20,000 worth of student loans. Now you are $30,000 in the hole. What say you financed a car from a buy now, pay later kind of place, or buy here, pay here place, and you still have another $5,000 left owed on the car. You find that the Kelley Blue Book value on the car might be $3,000. You have a $2,000 debt that you now add to that $30,000. Now you're a negative $30,000. Do you see how that works? Like, the stuff that you have minus the stuff that you owe, you could be in a negative, which on paper makes your brain grow. Just want you guys to understand that. So it might be shockingly small amounts of money, but whatever it is, don't panic. That's not your self-worth. That is your net worth. And it is going to be your starting point. And this is going to be the new number that we're going to work to improve for the rest of your life. And for the first time, you might be looking at that number on a real score of the game and trying to re-identify like who you are and how you identify things. And ladies, I just going to be real with you. You walk up and ask a man what his net worth is, he's going to immediately assume that you're a gold digger. He's going to be immediately, that's a red flag question for a man, the same way women say what's your body count is a red flag question for a woman. Because we understand that as men, our net worth is not nearly as high as we would like it to be. And women understand that after they made the choice, that their body count is not nearly as low as they would like it to be. So nobody wants to answer those questions. Michael says, if you get a negative, get back to work. Well, in our current society, Michael, a lot of people are going to be in the negative, but most of us, more often than not, are born in the negative. And that's one thing that nobody tells you. You are usually born in the negative. How might you act? Well, your birth comes with an outstanding medical bill. And not all the time that your parents could afford to pay it. It is under your name. It might not be attached to your social security number, but whatever hospital that you were born in, your childbirth is a bill that needs to be paid. After that, you have the cost of going to school. Some kids have tuition that they have to pay for their private schools. By the time you're 16, 17 years old, you have the cost to get to and from work. You have assets like your bicycle, you have assets like, your video game consoles, but those assets are very small. You have expenses such as everything your parents have to pay for, your cell phone bill. So your debt to income can be negative really quickly because kids don't have jobs. Think about this. You're in a negative as soon as mom gives you a cell phone, or as soon as dad gives you a cell phone and says you got to pay that cell phone bill. You are in the negative because you don't have a job. You have a bill with no income. So we typically are born in the negative. So to say, well, get back to work, it implies that people are not doing enough for themselves, and that's not really true. You're making money, but it's almost like, cash money millionaires. I'm getting paid, but my bills aren't. You could be making a hell of a lot of money, and you can be spending a lot of that money on the things that you want, or the things that you believe that you can benefit from, even though those are things that you don't need. And you don't have enough money to go around because you want a lot of things in a short period of time. You believe you can benefit from a lot of things in a short period of time. A lot of people are with the wisest knowledge and the worst timing, preventative maintenancing purchasing. And I should probably cover a whole show on that. Preventative maintenance purchasing is when you foresee certain things like buying a generator before hurricane season, stuff to that effect, where you're buying stuff that you know that you're about to need, but it is the wrong time, right? I told you guys about my homeboy who was trying to get himself a secure credit card, right before his car note was due. Now, by taking his cash and putting it on a credit card, he didn't have the cash to put it on his car note. It might have been a good way to build credit by setting up the secure credit card, but it was the wrong timing. He should have paid his car note first, and then if he had any money left over, he should have bought the secure credit card. Likewise, I had a family member that was trying to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. Took the money for the rent and bought a generator. Now that same person struggling to get money to pay the rent. You should have paid the rent first, and then if you had any money left over, you go buy the generator. It's bad timing a lot of the time that leads us to being in the financial negative. It is not just we're not working enough, we're not applying ourselves enough, right? There's a lot of people here right now that are in their 30s, and some are in their early 40s or mid 40s, where you've been doing it right while timing it wrong, and you spent the money on the wrong thing at the wrong time, and now something that is more important that needs to be paid for, you don't have enough money to pay for. Take, for example, you paid all your bills on time, you covered some much needed repairs, you replaced some equipment that you needed to replace, you've got everything under control, but you ran out of grocery money. You don't get paid till next week, but whatever's in the house right now, you got to stretch it until your next paycheck. You could be in a situation where you had everything under control. You got the food in there, you got everything under control, but you spent one $20 bill on the wrong thing, and now you don't have enough gas to get you to work until you get paid. It's just bad timing, right? Michael says, if a man asks you that question, he's just looking for a woman to take care of him. Run, girl. No. If a man asks a woman what's her net worth, first of all, it shows if she has any financial knowledge, because women are not valued based on her net worth. The woman is valued based on her effort, what she puts into her man and what she puts into the relationship. Men are valued by his net worth. Men are valued by the quantity of resources that he obtains and maintains, right? So while women can be very successful, more successful than men, the fact is that that's not what makes her valuable in the relationship. It's equivalent to, let's say that you are a highly experienced accountant, but your job is a security guard. Your ability to count money doesn't mean that you can pull the trigger. Your value in your security job is how well you can protect your client. Your knowledge in finance does not benefit that. And that's exactly the same thing in a relationship. So a woman being able to go to college, get a degree, get 5 degrees, get a career, be able to take care of herself, fantastic. As an adult, that is a round of applause. But in a relationship where her responsibility is to make sure that her partner is successful, so that her partner's responsibility is to provide for her based on traditional expectations of a man's role will never change, but a woman's role will never be pinned down. The issue is that if you're not willing to back out of the leadership role and put that guy in the leadership role, you're going to have 2 leaders fighting for the same. You got 2 drivers fighting over the same steering wheel. And imagine it. It's exactly like that. In a relationship, it is like driving one car. Both of you have a driver's license. Both of you have a reasonably decent experience record, right? But both of you cannot drive the car at the same time. One is driving the car, one is riding in the car. Even if it's your car, you may not be driving it. Your partner may be driving it. When you pick a partner, you're picking the partner that knows how to drive, because you don't want them to crash your car. So you should not be telling your partner how to drive your car. If you don't trust them to drive your car, they shouldn't be in your car. That's the same thing with a relationship. But a man whose job is to drive the car is not getting the woman because she knows how to drive. He's getting her because she's supposed to help him fix the car when the car breaks. Because if that was her part in the car example, is to help fix the car, he can fix the car with her, but he's supposed to drive the car. At the end of the day, she could be a NASCAR driver. Doesn't matter, because all she's supposed to do is fix it when it breaks. He's supposed to drive it. So when we look at these relationships, if you take it under that dynamic, if we look at these relationships, her ability to have $100,000 worth of assets, her net worth can be $300,000. But no man is going to look at her assets and say, she's valuable. But let her keep his itinerary organized. She's valuable. She could be broke. She could be sleeping out of a cardboard box under an overpass and be able to be the best personal assistant a man could ever have, and she will be more valuable than Beyonce. Because the only thing that Beyonce can do that the broke woman under the overpass can't do is Beyonce can hire a team of people to be the damn accountant for you. So it's not about the assets. It's about the effort. Michael says the best thing for kids are jobs. The earlier the better. Actually, what's better for kids, instead of giving them a job, Michael, what's better for kids would be to teach them at a younger age how to invest in themselves and their future. We are in our 30s and 40s and 50s the product of get a job. And our life sucks. We are the product of get a job. So clearly, get a job at a young age is not the best thing for them, because I started working when I was 9. I started being financially responsible 3 years ago. If I would have been taught financial responsibility 40 years ago, I would be a multimillionaire right now. Get a job was something I was told at 6, 7, and 8 years old. And at 9 years old, I've been working since I was 9. Get a job didn't help me. It kept me from being without resources, but it didn't make me successful. I had to learn how to be successful along the way. Teaching your children how to be self-sustainable, and teaching your children how to build generational wealth, and teaching your children how to invest in themselves and invest in generational wealth is actually going to be more effective than telling your kids to go out and get a job, or showing your kids how to go out and get a job. You can give a kid a lawnmower and teach them how to create a business. I'm going to go get my customers. I'm going to cut grass. I'm going to make money. But teaching a kid how to be a boss, where I'm going to take this lawnmower, I'm going to pay each one of my friends $3 to help me cut the grass. I'm going to charge this person $20 or $30 to cut the grass. Let's set this up now. I'm going to get $30 to cut the grass. I'm going to get, or these days with inflation, $50 to cut the grass. I'm going to give each one of my friends $10. to help me cut the grass, $10 a lawn to help me cut the grass. I'm going to charge $50 a lawn to help cut the grass. I've got 4 friends helping me cut grass. I've got 4 properties that gave me $50 to cut their grass. Each one of my friends took 1 lawn. So each one of my friends got $10. I got a $40 profit off of each one of those lawns. That's 4 lawns. That's $160 that I got paid to negotiate my friends doing work. You got to teach your kids how to do that. That's what you need to do. You know, not let's wash cars for tips. No, you're going to be broke because people don't tip. Would you teach your kids how to build a business and automate that shit? Right? Because if your friends are doing a good job, you can give them a raise. I can up your pay from $10 to $15. You know, if you know plenty of other lawns that are larger lawns where we can get paid more money, I could, you know, turn you into management, have you negotiating the situation. I can work on marketing. You can work on contracts. Look, you know, we could turn this into a landscaping business at 14, 15, 16 years old. But it requires us to teach our kids something that we weren't taught when we were growing up, because we again were taught to go find who's giving out money for work and do the work that was necessary to get the money. We weren't taught what to do with the money after we got it. And we weren't taught how to scale that so that we were not required to be present to get paid. We're learning that now in our 30s and 40s. But we weren't taught that. So you teach your kids at 6, 7, and 8 years old that exact logic. And instead of giving them an allowance because they breathe, where they feel entitled to money because they live in your house, you know, you teach them how to earn the money, not by doing chores, not by being obedient. Being obedient is an expectation. It's a mandatory requirement. So I'm not going to pay you to do your part, right? But if you can find ways for us to make money for us, I'll buy your idea. Now we're going to start turning children into like a mini Shark Tank scenario, expanding and automating things, right? And then that's where their allowance should come from, creating wealth. Their allowance should not come from not being a burden. They didn't earn anything. Find ways to bring money into the house, and I'll invest in that for you so that we can all make money together. But I don't just sit here and think that you're going to get from me because you're sitting here. No, that doesn't work. Now, yes, you can make your kids employees in your business. You can give them mediocre tasks. You can hand them a salary, and you can utilize that as a tax write-off on your LLC, family of LLC. You can do that. But to make your kids better, you want to teach them how to be the boss, not how to be an employee. Michael says, buy things out of season. Yeah, that's exactly what we would have done. Most security guards, unless they are specialized armed security, only observe and report. But that doesn't change the fact, Stephen, because that's coming from the example from earlier when I said that your skill set as an accountant has nothing to do with your job as a security guard. You're thinking about rent-a-cops. You're thinking about rent-a-cops. When I said security guards, you were thinking about like mall cops. You're thinking about like campus security, where they're walking around with a flashlight and a whistle. Top flight security in the world, Craig. That's what you're talking about. When I said security, I'm talking about like the bodyguards that are following famous people. When I said security, I'm talking about like the bodyguards that are following mafia. When I said security, I'm talking about the bodyguards that are following the president. But let's take your example of unarmed security guards. Their job is to observe their environment and report. Now, let's take the exact same example, the experience of an accountant, somebody who can count really good. Accountants don't pay attention to their surroundings. They pay attention to the profits and losses sheet. They don't pay attention to the person's behavior. They pay attention to spending habits. Again, you take the skill set of an accountant and put them in the job title of an unarmed security guard. Their past experience has nothing to do with the new job. They still cannot transfer that skill set to this role, which ultimately means, just like a woman's ability to be successful in her own right, she can't transfer that into a helper role. Her leadership skills cannot be transferred into a helper role. Do you understand that? That's the observation. Her leadership skill, her alpha boss lady skills, does not transfer to a subordinate helper role. Now, when we need a second leader, when the captain is out on injury, then yes, she can step up and be the boss all day long, but it does not transfer. And because it doesn't transfer, if I'm looking for a helper and you are not a helper, then your leadership skills do not qualify you for this role. Michael says, then you need to increase your income. Chasing paychecks just become draining. Yes, chasing paychecks becomes draining, but us as kids were taught that we are supposed to do exactly that. When we want something and our parents can't afford it, they will tell us no and tell us to go get money to get it ourselves. Go get a job. If you want that, go get a job. I'm not paying for that. I got X, Y, and Z. You know, if we were first spoiled by our parents with branding. And then after we grew accustomed to branding, then we want something that's branded and our parents can't afford it. Oh, I don't got that. You go get it yourself. I got you these, you know. Or if we were out shopping, oh, do you got McDonald's money? Do you got Toys R Us money? Do you got, you know what I mean? So we were conditioned to chase money because the things that we wanted in life, our parents weren't going to buy for us. So in order for us to buy that for ourselves, we must go earn the money from somewhere else, because we were taught at a young age stealing is wrong. Now, the problem is that because we were conditioned to go get money to get the things we want in life, we have learned earn to spend, not earn to invest, not earn to save, not build a future. It is earn now to spend now. That is what we learned in our childhood, and that is how we behave in our adult life, which is why we live from paycheck to paycheck. To become the chipmunk, stash your money. That's what we're teaching everybody to do right now. Steven says, at a young age, I was a hustler, raking leaves, shoveling snow, selling pogs and cars, anything to get a buck. Right. And how much of that money do you still have? None of it, because we learned to go get it and spend it. Michael says that you better teach them how to use the lawnmower and maintenance first. No. When you okay, here's the thing, Michael. You can teach someone how to be a worker, but if you really want them to be the boss or be the leader of something, yes. If you're a self-employed individual, you build a business from the ground up. So what's going to happen is that you're going to be the worker in the beginning because you're building this from the ground up, but you expand the work to a level to where there is enough money here to pay somebody else to do the work for you. That takes you out of that role. You were the marketer, you were the worker, you were payroll, you were the boss and the employee all at once. But you build enough marketplace for you to be able to pay somebody else to do the manual labor for you. Now all you have left is marketing to expand so that you can have more work, and payroll, because you're going to be paying the employee. You're the boss, but you're no longer the employee. Before you teach your kids to grab a lawnmower, learn how to fix a lawnmower and get out there and go and get it, because even we weren't taught that. We were taught this is how you put gas in it. Take the lawnmower out there, maybe take a gas can with you, get out there and cut as many lawns as you can, and bring the lawnmower back. When a lawnmower don't start, that's the end of our work day. We call our parents, and then they tell us, oh, check this, do that, do the other. Parents are reactionary. I've been teaching you guys for the last 3 months. Stop living your life reactionary. Parents are reactionary. Parents don't teach their children ahead of time what the kids need to know to be successful. Parents teach the children in the moment that the children are stuck what they need to know to get over the current hurdle. So the parents will give the kids, will buy the kids a lawnmower and say, use this. The most that they're going to do is show them that it doesn't work without gas. Here's the gas, here's the oil, fill it up, use it. Now, when it breaks, then the parents are going to teach them about troubleshooting, right? But why are you teaching your kids to get out there and go and cut grass and make money instead of teaching your kids how to build a business off of going out there and cutting grass and make money? If you're not teaching them how to scale, they're going to sell their time for money, and that's the worst thing in the world for them, because they're not investing in themselves, they're not investing in their future, they're just getting money to buy stuff. So ultimately, instead of teaching them how to use a lawnmower and maintenance it, the first thing you need to do is teach them, how can I scale this so that I no longer have to do this, but I can still get money off of this idea? Take drop shipping, for example. You find a product that's valuable, somebody else is making it, somebody else is wanting to buy it, you are the middleman, you're buying the product from the distributor, you're selling the product to the customer. The difference between what you pay and what they pay you is your profit. Now, for anybody who knows about drop shipping on Amazon, you buy the product in bulk, you send it to Amazon, and now Amazon ships it to the customer whenever the customer orders it. But Amazon's going to do it for a price that's going to come out of your profit. You may have to raise the cost of your product to cover the cost of Amazon to make sure that you're getting paid off of Amazon. Now, here's the thing. Automating the system. In order for you to not have to ship each individual item, you have to scale your inventory to a level where the profit from the sales exceeds the cost of Amazon shipping the product, so that you no longer have to ship the product. Otherwise, you're all day long, all night long, checking your emails, looking for product confirmations, putting them in a thing, bringing them down into the post office every day, all hours of the night, all hours of the day, all on the weekends, all on your vacation time, forever shipping. You're still the worker. But if you learn how to automate, that's a little bit different. Michael says, I never hire friends. You don't have to hire friends. You can hire classmates, because your friends are the worst people in the world to do business with from the gate. You might be the most productive person in your friend group. You've got friends that are basically emotional validation. They're useless outside of that. And, you don't want to tell them that, but you hang on to them because there's somebody to talk to when shit gets stuck. But they don't have the motivation in their own life to be successful. So they're not going to grind the way you need them to grind in order for the two of y'all to make money together. I mean, remember I told you about my homeboy that gave me the $250,000 idea, and I was making money. I was balling. I tried to hire him so that he can make more money, because he wasn't making enough money on his job. He didn't want to do it. He came with me on the job, kind of did a ride along, right? And he was just hanging out. He didn't want to put in any work. And I'm like, bro, but if you put in the work, if you put in the work, you'll make $250 today. Oh no, I just came to chill. You're already here. You're here where the money is, and you just want to hover, not make a dollar. And so no, you don't want to hire your friends. You can hire strangers. But if you got good friends, they're like, oh yeah, but as kids, we got a goal. We might want to buy the new PlayStation 6. So we'll work together to buy the PlayStation 6 so that we can play the new GTA 7. That might be the thing. But we're not trying to put our money together to pay for college. We're not trying to put our money together to pay for prom. We're not trying to put our money together to set up a future anything, because as kids, we're in the here and now. But that mentality carries over to our adulthood. So if you're teaching your kids to prepare for their future, don't hire your friends unless your friends are the help, and all the help is going to do is complete the task today for money today, so that they can do whatever they want to do. But when you're hiring your friends You're hiring your friends that will work, that will accomplish the task to your expectations, and they get paid after the job is done. And if the job is satisfactory, they don't get paid as much, but you still give them a little something. You keep the difference, and then go hire somebody else. And if you've made if you make a portfolio, because we use portfolio to identify our money, we use our portfolio to identify, you know, a lot of things, but really what a portfolio is an itemized list of your successes and a lot of the times your failures. And if you started up a business or you started up a side hustle where it's a multi-person gig, and this is how much money is being made, this is how much people are getting paid, this is the consistency of this side hustle, and you say, well, hey, me and my homies got a lawn thing, we got this neighborhood, this neighborhood, this neighborhood, it turns over a decent quantity of profits where I can pay you $10 a lawn. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? That's it. That's your portfolio, right? So teaching your kids this also teaches your kid the 30-second elevator speech. It teaches you scouting. It teaches your kids all kinds of things. Because if the goal is, before you start trying to create a business from scratch that you have to grind out on, you create something scalable that you can hire employees to do. You make sure that the platform covers an overhead where the workers get paid. You don't have to do as much work. You're going to try to position yourself in marketing and management where you're overseeing the work, but you're not really doing all of the work. You're maintaining equipment yourself and everything to that effect, which is going to be your excuse to them as to why they get 10 per person and you keep the rest, because I'm paying for the equipment, right? And then the difference between you paying the equipment is yours. But again, if you've got 4 friends, each one of those friends is getting $10 a lawn. There's 4 lawns. Each one of them got $10. You're charging the customer $50 a lawn. You got $40 a lawn as profit. If you had to take $40 out for gas, you still got $120 of profit. Easy, right? They don't need to know the rest of the operation. They just need to know how much of the operation impacts them. And that could be a summer job, but you got to teach your kids to scale. Steven says, when I used to get paid, I blew it all. Now I know what to do with it. Right. But at 36, it took you 20 years to figure out what to do. And that's why I'm saying, if we taught our kids when they were young, they would know. But now here as adults, we're going to learn. We're going to learn the hard way. Now, pillar number 2, after we've already done our assessment of our finances to kind of figure out where things are, the next thing you want to do, because your net worth tells you the overall position that you're in, but your emergency funds is going to tell you how fragile you are. This is going to be the buffer between the bad days and financial catastrophe. Determine whether a job loss, a medical bill, or a car repair is a solvable problem or a crisis that sends you into a debt spiral. Now, I know that the age-old saying is that you need to have about 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses saved up in liquid capital, meaning like cash that you can use right now, easily accessible accounts that you can utilize that money from, and that's the ideal goal. That's the reasonable, manageable observation. And why is it stated at like reasonably 3 to 6 months? Because if your cost of living is, say, $3,000 a month, 6 months worth of money is $18,000 in cash. That's a lot of money. However, what I want to understand, what I want everybody to understand is, with like a month and a half to 3 months worth of government shutdowns, 3 months of money is not enough. 2 shutdowns in a single year, 3 months worth of money is not enough. If you spent half of, if not 3/4 of the money recovering from the October to November shutdown, the January to March shutdown, you would have been in a hole. You're still recovering from the March shutdown, and you're looking at the possibility of another October shutdown, you need to start generating 12 to 18 months worth of emergency funds accessible somewhere. Think about anybody who's post-COVID. If you guys remember when we had a whole year worth of not being able to go to work, we need to start putting away enough money to cover a year of not being able to go to work. But to start with, realistic, achievable goals requires us to do micro goals on top of macro goals. A micro goal is a short distance that we can achieve as a milestone towards the bigger picture. So end goal, end result, you kind of want to have like 12 to 18 months lying around just in case. But as you get there, start off by having 3 months, then work your way up to 6 months. But don't stop at 6 months, because 6 months is not enough. Also think about this. With the way the employment market is right now, you might be unemployed for 9 months if you quit your job today or get fired today and you're trying to find you another job. 6 months isn't enough. So ideally, you want to have this money in a high yield savings account where it can earn some kind of interest, even though it's not going to really offset inflation. It will actually grow beyond the initial principal and have you more on the back end later on when you do go to tap into it, but it needs to be readily accessible. Now you can, for those individuals that are going to pay your bills several months in advance, which is a fantastic idea, put a lot of your capital into a brokerage account that can earn even more interest in a high interest savings account. The risk behind that is if the market sucks and businesses go under and your money is tied to those businesses, you might lose your emergency funds. But if your risk tolerance is manageable and you've got like 3 months worth of bills paid in advance and you're putting your money into a brokerage account, as I explained to Stevens, they still have 7 to 10 days a lot of the times with money transfers from a brokerage account. The money has to clear and not be tied to any purchases or sales before it is accessible to be deposited into your bank account. So when all the transactions settle, then the money that's not being used for anything is the money that you get to drop, and then you still got to wait another 3 to 5 days to get it after that. So it might be 2 weeks to get your money out of a brokerage account if you've got like high volume performance on your brokerage account. So that might be a situation where next week is September 1st. If you're starting to pay your November 1st bills right now in August, you could potentially put a decent quantity of your money into a brokerage account where if you're looking at over the next 3 weeks, some financial problems on the horizon, instead of waiting until that financial problem becomes a requirement for an immediate action, you could preventative maintenance start utilizing the money from the brokerage account so that it is freed up to put towards that particular scenario. Either way, whenever you're selling stocks on the market and you're selling while they're down, it's a permanent loss in comparison to the gains that you would have otherwise made. And sometimes you lose all of your interest, if not your interest in some of your principal, whenever you sell the stocks while they're down. So that's something that you have to reconsider. But if you have the ability to, for those of us that have stable lives with very little conflict outside of our friends, family, and kids doing something stupid that we don't necessarily have to get involved in, we could build a life around the brokerage account where the money that's coming in from the brokerage account, $200, $300, $500 a month, could be the extra money that instead of us reinvesting it back into the platform, we let it settle and clear, deposit it into our bank account, and then pay for that financial problem. Because right now, this last week of August, you have like Ellington Residential, Orchid Island, AGNC, I think Alterio, and a few other companies that are wrapping up the last week of August, where dividends are going to start coming in between the 1st and 15th of September. So if you had any expenses that had to be paid on the 20th of September, instead of reinvesting your dividend return back into your brokerage account, you might deposit it into your account the first week of September and use the profits from your brokerage account to pay for your bills that are due on the 17th or the 20th of September, where you otherwise didn't have the money. Because you're about to get paid for your brokerage account, you do have the money. But because your bills are pushed back a month or 2 months down the line. This is not, I need to pay my light bill on the 1st and the money won't clear the bank until the 15th. This is, I want to do something for whatever on the 20th, and I'm going to get a dividend return on the 7th, and I'm going to put that money towards that particular transaction instead of having a financial complication. So that's something that you guys need to take care of. For many individuals in their 30s, saving money is going to feel like an impossible goal. So let's break it down into a clear, actionable stress test. First thing you need to do is define your essential monthly expenses. It's not the total quantity of money that you spend every month. It's just the bare bones quantity that you need to have in order to survive. Cost to keep you alive, cost to keep you afloat for 1 month. If you lost all future income, how much money do you need to survive on, right? Maybe for housing, you got your rent or your mortgage, utility bills, including water, electric, heat, internet, grocery bills, realistic groceries, not extravagant spending. You might have to dial it down from name brand foods to store-bought foods, but the least amount of money that you need to survive off of. Whatever transportation, including gas, public transportation, to look for a new job, bicycle, scooter, whatever the case may be, insurance premiums, health coverage, car coverage, anything to that effect, phone bills, internet services, the minimum debt payments on all of your loans and credit cards and everything. Notice what's not on the list: streaming services, gym memberships, restaurant meals, shopping, vacations, dating. None of that stuff's on the menu, right? This is going to be your survival list, not your comfort list. Add up your essential expenses to get your monthly burn rate. Then you want to look at the cash that you have in your checking account, your savings account, the money that you can access today without having to sell any of your investments or pay any penalties to charge off any of your 401ks or IRA accounts. That's going to be your liquid savings. Here's going to be your months of runway calculation to determine exactly how far you can go if all your money stopped coming in, if no more money was coming in for you. The months of runway that you have is going to be your liquid savings divided by your essential monthly expenses. So if your essential monthly expenses are around $3,000 a month, and you have something to the magnitude of $9,000 in your savings, $9,000 in accessible capital, you have approximately 3 months of runway. Okay, and this number is going to be your immediate financial resilience score. And actually, that can play to the magnitude of your risk assessment, your risk tolerance. Because if you are investing with your rent money, you are making a huge mistake, but you clearly understand that the transaction must be successful because you cannot wait for it to fail, since the money needs to be utilized for next week Wednesday. Your risk tolerance would be low because you need the money in a few days. If you don't need the money until November, you can wait a little bit. You can put the money up there. You can let it do what it's got to do. You don't got to worry about selling right now. You have plenty of time to get money from somewhere else. When you're looking at your standard of living, your cost of living, the bare bones cost of living versus the quantity of money you have on the side, that also shows you risk tolerance towards business startups. Recognizing that you're not taking this money and putting it toward the startup of your business, how much time can you invest in starting up a new business before you would need to generate an income? That's what this money could also be utilized for. Where you may have to stay working for someone else and do the other job part-time until you have transitioned over to a scenario where you're making 70% of the income as your primary employer before you transition over. But looking at how much you have versus how much you have to spend on determines how much time you have before you run out of money. So you might have less than 1 month worth of income. You'd be in the danger zone. A single unexpected event could be devastating. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, You don't get paid till Friday. You got bills due on Thursday. You don't have any money right now. You're in a bad spot. You want to build a starter fund of at least $1,000 and then 1 full month of expenses as you go along. That's going to be your absolute highest priority. Start off by trying to hold on to $1,000, then determine how much money you need for 1 month's worth of living and try to get that first. And I tell you guys, paying your bills in advance, revolving bills are flat rate bills. I mean, yes, they're a little bit variable because your electric bill is going to be higher when you use more power. Your gas bill is going to be higher when you use more gas. Your water bill is going to be higher when you use more water. But you have an average month-to-month expense because your usage is usually consistent. So you kind of have, outside of inflated cost, you kind of have an idea of how much your power is going to be, right? Well, not if you live in states that are getting power from Canada, because they're probably going to get screwed right now. But for the most part, for the rest of us, we kind of have an idea. If you know that you normally spend around $250 a month for your light bill, you know that approximately $250 a month is your light bill. If you paid $250 a month on your light bill, you're paying the bare minimum. But if you pay $500 a month on your light bill for 3 months, now you got your light bill paid for 3 months in advance. You can maintain that level and go back to giving them the $250 a month. And then if something happens where you don't have enough money coming in, you can skip a payment because you've already paid them for 3 more months. You've almost paid them for the rest of the year, right? They owe you service for the quantity of money that you gave them. They're not going to give you the money back. If you overpay on your light bill, they're not going to give you the money back. If for the entirety of your life you are paying 10% more on your light bill than what you actually owe on your light bill, you will find yourself over the course of 10 consecutive payments overpaying enough to be 1 month in advance. But if you pay double what you need, if your light bill is 100, you give them 200. If your phone bill is 75 and you give them 150, you're overpaying. This doesn't work for mortgages. It does not work for car notes, but it does work for paying your car insurance for the entire 6 months. It does work for light, gas, water, cable bill, phone bill. It does work for things that are a revolving service that has a reasonable fixed scenario. You can just give them 6 months worth of money for the service that you're guaranteed to utilize, because this is standard services. And then you don't have to worry about the next 6 months of them asking you for money. They will send you a bill that shows how much they still owe you and how much they took out of it and what they took it out for. And why do I think that that is better than having a stack of cash in a savings account? Because an emergency fund and a savings account can just as easily cover your utility bills for the next 6 months as it could to cover car repair. But if the utility bills are already paid, if the car needs to be repaired, you're going to have to use a different quantity of money for that. You can have 2 different catastrophic failures at the same time. You can have a car crash that requires car repair, but your job loss requires 6 months of not going to work, and your bills still need to be paid. If you have an emergency fund that might cover the car repair, what's covering your utility bills? So if your utility bills are paid for 6 months in advance, a year in advance, whatever else happens in your life, your primary bills are already paid, right? So the first thing you want to focus on methodically, building up this savings. 3 to 6 months is going to be the next step. Once you're there, you're in a stable position. You can weather a significant financial storm like a job loss, a short-term job loss, without having to make desperate decisions. And that's one of the most important parts about this is you don't want to be in a situation of panic, because just like I think it was last week or yesterday, we were talking to somebody who were like, oh man, I would have just got a job from anywhere. It was Sunday. That's what it was. Michael, matter of fact, was like, oh, I would just got a job from anywhere. No. If your skill set is on the level of a $30 an hour job, you don't want to settle for a $12 an hour job because you need money now. You're not going to have enough money to cover your standard of living, because if your standard of living is a $25 an hour standard of living on a $30 an hour skill set, and you accept a $12 an hour job, you're not getting paid enough, which means you got to work 2 jobs. But the ability to hold out for the $30 an hour job requires you to have enough financial stability to wait. That again is this runway that we're talking about here, right? When you start having more than 6 months, you're in a position of strength, because when your runway is short, you don't have a lot of options. You also don't have a lot of time, but you don't get discouraged about that. You just need to start off by getting that $1,000 amount of money, then work on getting your first month, then work on getting your first 3 months, then work towards getting your 6 months. Just build. An emergency fund isn't just the money, it's also peace of mind. And that's going to be something that I swear you will have so much financial relief when you listen to what I'm telling you and start paying your utility bills multiple months in advance. You got extra money coming in and you start paying your utility bill, overpaying on your utility bills. I promise you, when you walk up on the first and you look at the light bill came in $0 owed, gas bill came in $0 owed, water bill came in $0 owed, all you gotta pay this month is the rent or the mortgage and the car insurance, unless you pay that for the whole 6 months. And then whatever credit cards are sitting there, you're looking like, oh, I don't have to do anything this month. I can start focusing on next month or the month after. That mental peace of mind is golden. You got to understand, you can start moving and shaking. You can take a little bit of money and put it towards fixing some stuff that you could not fix. Garbage disposal, get some stuff taken care of that you wasn't able to take care of because you don't need to do anything this month. You can also plan for external repairs. You can plan for regular servicing. You can plan for regular car maintenance, because now you got, this is the month I got a little extra money, or I have a little extra space between my money and my bills. I can actually service my car. Paying these bills significantly large number of months in advance. Huge benefit for you. And if you're a government worker, it is even better, because whenever they fuck up the money, because the government is going to do it every year. They tell you don't come to work. I don't care. My bill's already paid. I don't got to come to work. As a government agent, I'm going to get paid anyway. This is my vacation time. So they tell me, oh, you can't come to work. Cool. But am I going to take a vacation like the normal sense of a vacation? Like we're going to spend a bunch of money and go somewhere? No. I'm going to take my ass to sleep. Because all of us, Gen Zs and Gen Xers and the old school folks, whatever the case, anybody over the age of 36, we work from the time we wake up till the time we take our ass to bed. Outside of doom scrolling on social media, we spend a lot of our time working and sleeping. 20, 30 minutes out of our day, we might hang out with some friends and family, but we spend most of our time working and sleeping. Less sleeping than working. So if your boss tell you that you're not coming back to work till I call you, shh, let me put the phone on silent and I'm just gonna go to bed. Spend some time with my family, you know, maybe take up a trade, learn something new, but I'm just gonna sleep. That's your vacation. Rest. Right? But this is also the type of peace of mind that gives you the ability to say no to a terrible job. Your boss is disrespecting you, you can walk out on them. You can just, you know what, I quit, find you another job. It's the freedom to make decisions based on opportunities that benefit you and your family in the long term, not out of fear of losing out. Because we put more effort into keeping what we're familiar with than effort into the unknown. Even if the unknown would perceivably be better for us, we will put more effort into what we have, keeping it, trying to prevent from losing it, than what we will put into what we don't have. So the fear of loss will cause us to panic spend more than desire to obtain. Does that make sense? And I've covered that on the show before too. Pillar number 3 is going to be the danger map, your debt breakdown. Debt is going to be one of the most emotionally charged topics in personal finance. For the audit, you just need to set that emotion aside, and then you want to look at the debt strategically, like a general mapping out of enemy territories. Not all debt is going to be created equally. The goal is to create a danger map that shows you where the real threats lie. When you start with debt, you want to deal with the high interest bad debt. This is going to be any debt with interest rates that are actively working against you, usually anything in the double digits, 10% or more. This is going to be the categories that include credit card debts, store cards, personal loans, and payday loans, because student loans are single-digit loans, mortgages are single-digit loans, car notes are single-digit loans. But buy now, pay laters might have like 14%, but usually your phone bill, when they prorate the phone for you and they put it on an installment plan, they more often than not don't have interest rates on that, because it is a contract for the service that's not actually contracting you through the service. They're contracting you through the device. So when companies like T-Mobile say no contract, you can quit at any time, but you sign a contract for the installment fee for the equipment that says that if you terminate your service with the company, you owe them 100% of the remaining balance for the equipment immediately upon termination of service. So they're locking you into an 18-month contract, not for the service, for the equipment that uses the service. It's still a contract. You're guaranteeing them that for 18 months, you're not going anywhere. And as a result, you get the phone cheaper. So they don't usually charge you interest on that. Me, I like to give them a middle finger short notice, so I buy the phone cash up front. That's not always fiscally responsible, though, because with these new phones being $1,600 a piece, $1,600, that's the down payment on a car. You know, that's a lot of money to be buying a cell phone. So you only want to buy a cell phone once every 5 years. Now, the unproductive debt is going to be used for consumption. And that's something that you want to get rid of. So it's going to be the high interest rates that acts like a cancer to your net worth. Paying off a credit card with 22% APR is going to be like a guaranteed tax-free 22% return on your money when we're doing it from the observation of opportunity cost. It's nearly impossible to reliably out-invest that kind of debt, because even the portfolios that we've created are between 15 and 20% return on investment, 21% for Ellington Residential. So you're not really seeing a true average of 22 or higher percent return on investment. And that's a very highly volatile portfolio investment when you have a portfolio that is generating 22% return. And that is probably going to be from a REIT that's going to be short-term satisfaction, not long-term satisfaction. There is no gratification there. You're gonna be getting cash until they cut it, till they cut losses, and then you're gonna be getting less cash. But either way, you know, there isn't very many investments that are going to give you a massive quantity of money over the course of 20 or 30 years. So we look at opportunity cost, 22% interest rates or 29% interest rates if you got bad credit. Those interest rates hurt you more than your ability to invest in anything. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest while you're paying down debt. It just means that you should overpay on your credit cards and not only pay the minimum balance. But this is going to be a fire in your financial house that must be extinguished as fast as you possibly can. So you want to structure some okay debt. And this is going to be the category that's going to be including things like student loans, car loans, mortgages, stuff like that. The debts that often have lower fixed interest rates and a clear payment schedule. While it's not ideal, you are often required to have these items. These are necessary parts of modern life. So these would be considered good debts. Student loans, for instance, are generally considered good debts because they are an investment in an asset such as your education, even though the majority of people who go to college don't utilize their degree for the field of work that they get into. I've got 3 degrees and none of them have anything to do with what I'm doing right now. It's just a principle of the fact that you are investing in the intent to utilize that knowledge for a better standard of living. Now, that's supposed to increase your lifestyle and your earnings potential, even if it doesn't. So while it's not guaranteed, it's only really works if the debt is taken on manageable uh, levels compared to the income that you're ending up earning. So this debt is not a five-alarm fire, but long-term challenges to be managed and eventually eliminated when you start dealing with high levels of student loans, because all of the pillars that they've put up recently to take on student loans not feasible for you. One of the reasons why I love the fact that mine are permanently deferred. Um, Productive or good debt, this is going to be a tool that is used to acquire an asset that has the potential to grow and uh, improve the value or produce an income. The most common example is going to be the mortgage, which, like I said before, mortgage is a good debt, reasonably considered a good debt, just like student loans. But the interest rates are typically going to be manageable, and over the long term, the house is likely to appreciate or increase in value, building your equity. Now, this is going to be using leverage as a tool to build wealth. So when you're creating your danger map, you want to list every single debt that you have. Next to each one, you want to write down the total balance, the minimum monthly payment that you have, and most importantly, the interest rate, the annual percentage rate. Sort the list from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. That debt at the top of your list at like 24% or higher, than 18% personal loan, those are going to be your mortal entities. All of your focus and external financial energy, anything left over that you're not putting into your brokerage account, is going to be used to build the emergency fund after you've covered your external funds and put some money towards your investment portfolio. But you want to destroy your bad debt as fast as possible. Now, me and Michael, we've talked about this on the show quite a few times. So for those of you on TikTok that haven't heard this before, we have two ways that we can accomplish this. We have the avalanche method, where you're paying off the highest interest debt first, which is mathematically optimal. And then the snowball method, where you're paying off the smallest balance first, which is psychologically optimal, because looking at that zero balance at the end of your bank statement makes you feel achieved more than chasing the lower interest rates and still having the reoccurring debts for extended periods of time. Both work. You pick whichever one works for you and be relentless about it. And you can alternate between them, because you can pay down the smallest ones when you have $300 and $500 credit cards. You can just pay that off right before the billing cycle, put 80% back on it, and then take the money that you would have put towards whatever is on, because I would only charge my credit cards towards revolving bills so that I can have my money pass through my credit card, but not have like unnecessary spending on my credit cards. Because again, the old saying, don't put on your credit card when you don't have cash to pay for your credit card, still would apply here. If you would have paid your utility bills in cash, but you put your utility bills on your credit card, and then you pay your credit card off 5 days before the billing cycle rolls over, that's exactly what we're doing. So you could pay off your bill, your credit card bill. You got like $300, $500 credit card bill, and then you put your lights, your water, your phone bill on there. Might be like $400. Put that on there, and now the money you would have put on your lights, water, and phone bill, you could put it on the other credit card. And then before the first credit card's billing statement is due, you take the money that you need from your second paycheck and put it on that first credit card and pay that one off, so that when the bill rolls over, again, it's going to be at a zero balance or with $2 on it. But you're able to kind of do this avalanche method alongside the snowball method to kind of pay all of your debts down and utilize your credit limits as a pass-through amount, not as a holding amount, right? No one ever talks about that particular strategy. Pillar number 4 is going to be the core behavior matrix, because your savings rates is very important. And we've audited your position, your net worth, your emergency funds, your debt risks. And now it's going to be time for you to audit your behavior. Now, your savings rates, and we're halfway through, so make sure that you guys like and subscribe and mash those reaction buttons while you're here on both TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. Your savings rates is going to be the single most powerful matrix for measuring your financial discipline. It compresses your income, your lifestyle choices, and spending habits into one simple but honest percentage. Now, this is going to be a good calculation for savings. The total monthly savings divided by gross monthly income times 100. Total monthly savings is going to include every dollar that you're planning on putting away for the future. That's going to mean your contributions to your 401k, your workplace retirement plans, your employee matching contributions, that counts too. Your contributions to your IRA, money you are adding to your emergency fund or other savings, extra payments that you make towards debt principals above the minimum amount, adding all of that up for one typical month, then dividing it by the gross pre-tax monthly income. That's what you're looking at. This percent is going to tell you a powerful story. While many financial planners are going to suggest saving like 15%, let's look at it in tiers of progress. Anything under 10%, you're likely treading water or falling behind. Inflation is probably eating up most of your income. 10 to 15%, you're making some progress. This is going to be a common target, but may not be enough for ambitious goals like early retirement. Anybody who's trying to retire in the next 15 to 20 years, you're looking at 15 to 20% that you got to be putting away, sometimes more than that, sometimes 30 or 40%. The more money that you save now in high interest bearing accounts, the more money you have to retire early. So if you're in the 15 to 20% range, you're in the wealth building territory. Savings rates, not market rates. The quantity of money that you're saving, 15%. When you think about $50,000 a year person, 15% would be something close to like $18,000. Something to that magnitude, yeah. So somewhere around. No, I'm gonna recalculate that. 15% would be something closer to I want to say $10,000 or $12,000, because 20% of $50,000 would be $10,000. So you're probably looking at something like $7,000, something like that. I had to rethink my math because I'm like, wait, hold on, 15% of $100,000 is $15,000, so half of that would be like $7,500. So 15, I was 20%. So 15% will be closer to $7,500. And that's a lot of money, because when you think about $7,500 over the course of 10 years, that's $75,000. And if you're living a $50,000 a year lifestyle and you have $75,000 put away, you have a whole year's worth of income sitting there. But when you're looking at over the course of 10 years, that $75,000 plus interest would be compounding to a magnitude of potentially $100,000 to $120,000, which means that you would likely have 2 years worth of money sitting in your brokerage account if you were investing 15% towards your brokerage account in high interest returns, in high interest bearing accounts. So your savings rate needs to be in a range that is invested consistently and puts you on a clear path to a comfortable retirement. And real quick, if you're thinking about retirement, and this is why I tell you guys to work on your 20 and 30 year plan. If you're thinking about retiring, and you're thinking about how soon you plan on retiring, and let's say you want to use a brokerage account as one of the catalysts to get you to that retirement. In order for you to determine how much you need to invest in your retirement now, you would determine, one, how much time you got left. If you got 10 years left, you're going to be putting a heck of a lot more money down than what you would be if you're saying, well, I want to retire in 20 years from today. If you're trying to retire 20 years from today, you then need to look at, well, what all would I need to pay for a comfortable standard of living in my retirement? If you're expecting to have a lifestyle that is 15 to 20% higher than your current lifestyle, plus inflation, you may decide that your $50,000 a year lifestyle might require you to have a $75,000 a year retirement. Even at a modest 10%, you're looking at potentially having $750,000 worth of principal. Now, if you have $750,000 of principal over the course of 20 years, it would be a lot easier to accomplish than it would be for 10 years, because for 10 years, you'd need like $75,000 a year. You're making a $50,000 a year lifestyle. If you're looking at 20 years, it might be something closer to $35,000 a year, which would be upward of 60 or 70% of your annual salary. Probably a little bit too much to ask for. Well, push your retirement back 30 years. See how this works? Well, my future retirement might be 30 years, because there's no way I'm going to consistently put for 20 years 75% of my income away. So stretch it out to 30 years. You're 30 years old, you want to retire like 65, 70 years old. So now my $70-something thousand a year lifestyle, I can potentially knock that back down to probably $20,000 a year. Oh, well, $20,000 a year is $200,000 every 10 years for 30 years. That's $60,000 plus interest. I should be able to make $750,000 to $800,000 and account for any negative fallout over the course of the next 30 years. Now you've got a plan. You set that goal, you set your timeline, and now you're looking at your investment opportunity, your investment platform. But if you're looking at $20,000 a year, you're looking at something close to $2,000 a month, or like $1,800 or $1,600 a month. And if you're looking at $1,800 or $1,600 a month, you need to be making something close to $4,000 to $5,000 a month income, right? So you were able to take. I took a future goal and reverse engineered it to what do you got to do today to make that happen. Now, that's just if you wanted a $70,000 a year lifestyle. What if you knocked it down to $50,000 a year lifestyle? You probably only need like $500,000 to $600,000. Again, you could probably do that $500,000 or $600,000 in 20 years instead of 30. Right? But if you were doing it inside of 30 years, you wouldn't need 1,800. You might only need like 900. Starts making more sense now, doesn't it? Because now with 900, you could be making a $3,000 a month income and take $1,000 out of that and have a $2,000 lifestyle, live off of $24,000 a year, put away $12,000 or $15,000 a year, and actually meet your goals inside of 30 years. You're not wasting money on insignificant things. You're investing money on your future. Then, ladies, when y'all get into relationships with hopefully financially responsible men, you're dating dudes that are not wasteful, right? So you're not looking at how much money he has. You're looking at how he budgets the money. And he's going to subsidize your income, 23% of your standard of living. And cohabitation, you're going to probably have half the bills that you normally would have had. Now your cost of living is at 50% or less, which means that you got an extra 50 or 60% to invest towards your retirement, even if it's a joint retirement. But guess what? If I'm making 50, you're making 50, and we're living 60, out of 100, we can put 40 grand away every year, not be wasteful, and retire in 10 years. All right? We're in our 30s and 40s. We can stay together until we're 50 and 60 and retire 10 years later, right? Just by, instead of getting lifestyle creep and improving our standard of living to match our income, we stay where we are for 10 more years, and then we can elevate our lifestyle and retire and live good, because by that time we would have more money coming in than our combined income together. And we can quit our jobs and spend the next 40 years enjoying our time with each other. And some people are going to think, oh, that's a lot of time. 10 years is a lot of time. Well, shit, you're in your 30s and 40s. You've been living this shitty lifestyle for the last 10 to 20 years. So what's another 10 years with somebody that you can retire with? Doesn't that make sense? So instead of caring how deep his pockets is, you pay attention to his decision-making skills. And if you've got a guy that's not going to waste the money, that's an asset. Women say they got a career and they got an education. You tell me that you've got a financial plan for retirement that you're investing in that I can benefit from. That's an asset that you can bring to your relationship because you'll help your husband with his retirement. But you being like the CEO of Goldman and Sachs, that does nothing for me when your money is your money. But if she's a Wall Street investment agent and she's taking her skill set and using it in her personal life, and I'm involved in her personal life, that's an asset. I just want y'all to understand there's levels to this stuff. The more aggressively that you invest in your future, intentionally saving will lead to financial independence much sooner than your peers. And if you're teaching your kids this at a younger age, the younger you, instead of saying that kids are too young to know, they know. They're just too young to process the knowledge appropriately. If you teach them more appropriately this information before it is necessary, once it becomes necessary, they can navigate it like a pro. So if from 6, 7, 8 years old, you're teaching your kids how to make, save, and invest money, how to leverage, how to expand and automate, how to remove themselves out of the workforce and put workers in place that they can rely on, that they can trust, how to turn profits off of investments, how to come up with ideas, how to be inventors, how to be creators. By the time your children are 18, 19, and 20 years old, and you started when they were 5 and 6 years old, they'd have been doing it for almost 15 years. They would have been able to make small, lightweight test experiments on investments, savings, budgeting, everything to that effect, where the safety net would be mom and dad. By the time they get grown, where they have to do this on their own money, they would have effectively done it long enough where they're making less mistakes and they're recouping the losses a lot faster and they're able to be more successful. So now that first 10 years of adulthood from 18 to 28, you are reinforcing and enhancing on an expert level your ability to make yourself successful because you've been doing that since you were a child. You were doing that since you were 6, 7, 8 years old. Those of us who have proudly said that we've been working since we were 9 and driving since we were 14, we do it so well right now in our 40s. But if we were investing since we were 9, if we were creating since we were 9, if we were expanding and building and networking since we were 9, we would be way richer than what we are now. The earlier you do it and the more you do it, the more effective it is, and the faster you see a return on your investment. So don't be discouraged if the numbers are going to be low when you first get started, but the goal of the audit is to find the truth. If your savings rates is somewhere around 4%, then it's 4%. Now you know. The question becomes, what can you do to get it to 5%, then 7%, then 10%? In fact, if you're currently saving at about 4%, add 1% every month. That's it. So if you're putting away $25 a month right now, next month, do 40, do 50, do 70. Get yourself up to $100 a month. Look at your discretionary spending. Stop paying for things you don't need. Quit smoking, quit drinking, quit clubbing, quit dating. Especially if you don't have the right person you're talking to. I'm not saying give up on a relationship. I'm saying give up on all of these random first dates with people who really are out there having a good time and you're trying to build a life, right? Or if you're gonna date, date for free. Not date on their dollar, date for free. Meaning like, let's go for a walk in the park. Let's go sit somewhere and read a book together. Let's go to a library. Let's go places that don't cost us money to get to know each other. Where the most expensive thing on a date is the damn gas. Let's ride bicycles. That way we don't have to spend money on gas. Right? Well, tracking your expenses is going to be the first step. Then you want to be able to optimize what you don't measure. Low savings rates is not a character flaw. It is a data point indicating your expenses are too high relative to your income. So you can either earn more money or spend less money. There are no other options. I had that conversation with Sterling. He's on a fixed income of $25,000 a year. He needs a $1,200 a year medication that exceeds his standard of living. He needs effectively an extra $15,000 a year worth of money in order to survive on his $25,000 a year income. You're going to do one or two things, buddy. You're either going to reduce your standard of living so that you can fit that 15,000 into your standard of living, or you're going to have to make more money, which means that you're going to have to start aiming for something close to a $35,000 or $40,000 a year income instead of the regular 24, because you cannot have an expense that is above your income and be able to afford that expense without sacrificing something else in that income. That's why it's a budget. It's a limit. Then we want to do progress benchmarks. We very rarely do this, but a retirement check-in. For many of us in our 30s and 40s, retirement feels like a very, very distant abstract concept till you get that one damn disability that permanently removes you from the workforce, right? Y'all remember when Edge won the World Heavyweight title in that ladder match, and then he was forced to retire immediately after that, broke his neck? Oh, nobody would have thought that his career would end suddenly like that. Everybody's, no matter what we're doing, we could have a safe job. We could be a librarian and books fall off the shelf, and all of a sudden we can't go back to work anymore. You just cannot guarantee that. So you have to recognize that retirement is not as far away as you think. This is going to be the decades where the magic of compounding is at its most powerful right now, while you're young, while you're able to go to work for somebody else. And a dollar invested at 30 is going to be worth more than a dollar invested at 40 or 50. So how are you going to be doing that? Widely cited benchmarks from firm financial experts like Fidelity is to have one time your annual salary saved for your retirement by the age of 30. So if your earnings is $70,000 a year, then the goal is to have $70,000 in your retirement account already. So if it ain't there, you're behind. At age 40, the benchmark is that you're supposed to have 3 times your salary. So if you have a $70,000 a year salary, you should have $210,000 already saved. If you don't, then you're falling behind. Take a deep breath on that, because for a vast majority of people, this target is never met. If you look at your 401k balance, it's nowhere near those numbers. Nowhere near your annual salary matter. And a lot of women that want a engagement ring, that's like 1/3 of their boyfriend's income. Shit, if he's a $50,000 a year worker, that right there, that's the retirement money right there. Because you're looking at like 30%, you're looking at close to like $10,000 to $15,000 of his annual salary to go towards a ring. You get you a blow pop, go around, get something out of the bubblegum machine for 25 cents, but with me, so it's talking about $15,000 for a ring. Hell, you want me to put a whole used car on your hand to show dedication to you? Nah, I'm not doing it. That's the way some money these days. Why, if that's the case, ladies, why are y'all not spending 1/3 of y'all income on the engagement ring for a dude? Because again, your income doesn't value the relationship. That's why. No one's gonna say, "Oh, she's a good woman. She bought you a $20,000 engagement ring." But they will say, "He's a good man. He bought you a $20,000 engagement." This level is supposed to be a benchmark. It's not supposed to be law, so it's not going to be a moral verdict of failure or success if you don't reach certain levels. But it does kind of give you an idea as to where you should be versus where you are. It's going to be a signpost, right, of your general pace. Are you ahead of the curve or are you behind? So if you are at or above the benchmark, congratulations. You're in a fantastic position. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you are below or significantly far behind the benchmark, you're in the same boat as the most of us, right? And there is zero reason to panic about that. But there is every reason to act on. The power of starting now is going to be immense. So if you are right now 30 years old and you start saving, maybe $500 a month could have more than double the amount at retirement compared to someone who starts saving that exact same amount at 40 years old. But if you're 40 years old and you haven't started yet, it's better to start now than to wait until you're 50 years old. That's an extra decade of compounding growth. So your action items are going to be clear here. If your employer offers a 401k with matching contributions, at least enough to get the full match is what you need to put in there, because that's guaranteed free money. Aim to increase your retirement contributions by 1% each year, or like I said, 1% each month, depending on how much you're investing versus how much you have, until you reach the cap that your limits are supposed to be set at. It's small enough to change that you likely won't feel, but it makes a massive difference over time. Going from doing a little bit to doing a little bit more is easier than going from nothing to something high. Okay. Consider opening an IRA, traditional or Roth. I would aim for a tax-free one where you pre-tax pay instead of post-tax pay. That way you get to keep all the interest, and you don't got to worry about paying the IRS when you're in your 60s and 70s in the retention levels. But for 2026, the contribution limit is $7,500 for those under 50. And the number that you have today is just going to be a snapshot. So since your savings rate and your consistency from this day forward will determine your future, you need to decide exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it in order to get to where you want to be at for your future. Now, the overlooked foundation of protection. This is going to be a financial pillar of the chassis that is the least exciting, but it's going to hold everything together while life is going truly wrong. This is the adulting part of the audit. Protection is about ensuring a single catastrophic event doesn't wipe out all of your hard work. So you want to ask yourself these simple questions. Health insurance, do you have it? Is it covering adequately your medical needs? Medical debt is a huge problem in the United States and is associated with the majority of personal bankruptcies. This is a non-negotiable. You want to make sure that your health insurance covers the health that you have and the type of policy that satisfies the type of lifestyle that you have. So for any individual that is planning on international traveling, you want to potentially start locking yourself into the type of health plan that can function in the country that you're going to, as well as the country that you're in. Even if it doesn't cover all 200-something countries, if it covers the one you're in and the one that you're about to go to, it's good enough. Disability insurance, something that not too many people know anything about. If you were injured and you couldn't work for 6 months, how would you pay your bills if you don't already have your bills paid on time? Your ability to earn an income is going to be a single greatest asset. So disability insurance would protect that. And I know that some scenarios you have certain companies that offer disability insurance and you think, I don't need that. I'm not going to be disabled. Look, if you find any provider, look over the policy, see what the criteria is, the difference between unable to work versus partially able to work. You can determine, and we've covered this on a show before. You'd have to go back to the show when we covered insurances. But based on the policy's coverage, if it's the type of coverage where you could work but you're not, like basically you go from being able to 100% cover your standard of living in that particular field versus not being able to work in that field anymore, and you're considered disabled because you can no longer work in that field. That's one type of disability which I would encourage you to get, because if you're working in a manual labor job and you no longer can work in a manual labor job while you could work in a tech job, the fact that you can no longer work in the field that you have the most experience in requires you to have a very large learning curve to get into another career, and having a disability insurance cover your standard of living for a period of time as identified in the policy to allow you to get back on your feet is more beneficial to you than the other disability where you can't work for anybody. That one's harder threshold to cover, because while you might not be able to work in the field that you are qualified for, you are able to work in a field somewhere and nobody will cover you. It's almost like getting SSDI or SSI. If if you're not missing limbs and can't do squat, they're probably not going to pay you, right? So you want to get the disability coverage, and that's not a government funded policy. That is a personal policy. You want to get a disability coverage that covers if you cannot work in your current field. That's constituting disability, and then you get paid off of that policy until something changes, right? Life insurance. If anybody depends on you, or, and this is another one, or if anybody depends on your stuff and your stuff has a balance on it, you want to get life insurance policy, at least term life, if not whole life. It's typically very affordable in your 30s, way cheaper than what it would be if you're 70. And then you want to either put a trust or put a beneficiary, a next of kin, on that particular policy. If you have stuff like car notes and mortgages and stuff like that, it might be beneficial to have a trust established, a revocable trust established, and have that revocable trust a beneficiary of the life insurance policy, and then have a third-party company that handles the trust, where what will happen is that they take the cash and put the cash towards the assets, that you can have a rollover scenario where all of your houses and cars and everything to that effect that wasn't already put in the trust before you died would go into the trust after you died, and the trust would pay off those items and assume ownership of those items, where the assets would no longer have a debt. So the kids don't lose the house, the cars, and all this other stuff because mom or dad didn't finish paying the bills before they died. That would be a good thing to do. And when you're setting up policies to cover assets, you want the insurance policy to exceed the outstanding balance on the asset. So say you buy a house for $250,000. Interest and everything might be something close to $400,000. You want to take a life insurance policy out for at least $500,000 or $600,000. Why? You want to be able to cover the total cost of the house plus a couple $100,000 left over, so that you can get your life together after you bury this friend or family member, right? Because sometimes people take time off from work after somebody dies. So you got a little bit of money on top of paying for the asset. The asset is secured, and you have some get my life together money right after that to kind of organize some stuff and figure out a plan. Renter's insurance and home insurance. Do you have that? Is it enough to replace your belongings in case of a fire or a theft or a flood? Right? And then your beneficiaries. Are the beneficiaries on your 401k or your IRA and life insurance policies? And is that scenario up to date? Y'all recognize what happened with Will Smith and his kid when they crashed into that whatever. The mom had to go to court and update the beneficiaries list and update policyholders because they did not establish that before the accident. Double check. I would say every quarter, if not every 6 months, make sure that everybody that's supposed to be on a policy is on a policy. And if you have beneficiary distributions where people have percentages of benefits, if you're going to modify those benefit percentages, you want to modify those benefit percentages on a regular basis. Because if something happens to you, whatever the last value was set, that's it. Let's say you got into a relationship, you made your ex your beneficiary, y'all are no longer together. You might want to take that person off and put your new relationship on as a beneficiary. Your ex-husband might be the beneficiary of your policy. You got a divorce. You might want to put your new husband on there as a beneficiary now, right? Simple check ensures that the money is going to go to the right people without any lengthy legal battles, because if somebody feels like they're entitled to it, they're going to fight for it in court. But if the paperwork says that as of recently, the person decided you're not entitled to it, there's nothing to argue about. A will, do you have one? At least a simple will, especially if you have children or a significant quantity of assets. A will of some kind would be crucial, but next to a will would be a trust. You know, this isn't about planning for doomsday. It's about being responsible as an adult. You are building a financial structure, and these protections are the foundation and the roof that protects the structure from the star. Now, you guys have done the hard part. We looked at some of the numbers. We've gone through the dashboard. We've created some pretty ugly assessments because more than 76% of us are in a shitty situation right now. The dashboard might be flashing red lights in a few areas for you guys, and that's okay. But for the first time, you're operating with total clarity. The quiet desperation that you felt came from uncertainty. The fear of what's going to happen next comes from you reactionary, adapting to life as life goes on, where you are a cameo in your own life, not the lead star, not the director, not the producer of your own life. You are a cameo. You are a background participant in your own life. And the fear of being cut from the show has always been a thing for you because you are not the primary person. Y'all notice that the star of the show never dies? The true star of the show never dies. The less significant of the role, the quicker the person gets cut out of the show. The only time primary characters get cut out of the show is when their contract ends. They'll be on the show for 20 years if the show lasts for 20 years because they're the primary. You need to live your life like you're the primary person in your life. Everything should revolve around you as far as your finances are concerned. Right? So now that we've got a diagnostic, we're going to spend a little bit of time real quick on a map. The diagnosis is going to be the most important step. And if you have found this level of no fluff auditing helpful, make sure that you hit that subscription button. Follow us on TikTok if you haven't done so already. Mash those reaction buttons while you're here. Hit the notification buttons on YouTube side of things so that you know get notified when we go live the next time we go live, because we go live 7 nights a week. Because this is what we do here. We provide you guys with a framework that leads you to real financial control. Because now that we have the chassis and the stable foundation, we can start talking about the fun part, which is building the engine. So now that we're on the second part, if the first part was about the defense and stability, the second part is going to be about offense and growth. This is going to be what you do after you have a positive savings rate, an emergency fund in progress, a plan for your high interest debt, trying to do stuff before the chassis is built is going to be a rookie mistake. But once the foundation is solid, these are the concepts that will accelerate your journey. For most of your life, you've been taught to be a saver. Right now, we're going to be shifting the mindset. You're no longer just a saver. You are an asset accumulator. The goal is not just to have money, but to have money that makes money for you. This means actively seeking to acquire assets. But we need to make a distinction between the two. Appreciation assets are going to be the things that you buy, hoping they will increase in value over time, like a broad market index fund or real estate. Cash flow assets are going to be things that put money into your pocket on a regular basis, like dividend paying stocks, rental properties. You can rent your car out, any asset that generates an income for you. The ultimate goal is going to be to build a system where your assets generate enough cash flow to cover your living expenses, and a lot of the times the operation costs of that asset. Because when you think about thrift is a rental car company where personal individuals rent their cars out to other individuals. The cost of renting your car out should be exceeding the cost of maintenance your car, insurance policies, gas for the car, whatever, and still have a profit on top of that that you can add to your standard of living. That way the car is no longer a liability, it's an asset. That's going to be the mathematical definition of financial independence. So your new focus is going to become, how can I use my savings not just to fill a bucket, but to buy and build more assets? you're now investing, right? Your savings rates isn't just disappearing into an account, it's being deployed to purchase shares in the world's greatest companies via your 401 account or your 401k or your Roth IRA, right? The cash flow first mindset changes how you view your finances. Your job is going to be your primary source of cash flow, but every asset that you acquire is a potential new small stream of assets, of capital gains. And over time, these small streams can grow into a river. Having a multifaceted lifestyle where you have multiple sources of income from multiple different places means that you have an abundance of wealth coming in over the cost of debt that you have going out. The second concept that you guys want to think about is going to be skill stacking and anti-fragile income. Not a lot of people pay attention to this part either, but the audit on the first half of the show revealed a potential point of failure for most individuals. A single source of income. Your W-2 job is a one pillar supporting your entire financial lifestyle. If that pillar cracks, the whole structure is at risk. An anti-fragile income structure is one that can withstand shock. So this doesn't mean that you have to start a massive side hustle. It's starting with stacking your skills. You possess skills that your employer pays you for. Are there other people or businesses who would pay for that exact same skill on a freelance or consulting basis? Are you a great writer? Can you write freelance blog posts? Are you an expert in Excel? Can you build financial models for small businesses? Are you a talented graphic designer? Because you can take a small branding project and then utilize that for extra capital. By creating a second or third stream of income, even a small income, you fundamentally change your financial DNA. You're no longer 100% dependent on a single employer, and this dramatically reduces your risk and increases your negotiating power in your primary career. Because of what you're doing is graphics design. You're working for a graphics designer. You are graphics designing as a subcontracted position. You're getting paid per job more than what you're getting paid per hour. You can actually bring your profits and losses to say, hey, I'm graphics designing on the side. Not using your equipment, because we got to recognize that, we've got some non-disclosure agreements and trade practice things that we sign up on with certain jobs. But, my skill set on the job, I utilize off the job and make $10 an hour more than what I'm making now. Can you give me 5? You can negotiate a raise. If you're learning new skills that would effectively work on a job, but you're using those skills off the job, you can start incorporating them into the job. And then when the boss sees the product or results of your new skill set, then you show the boss, hey, based on what I'm doing now, you can give me a $3 raise. Negotiate that. It's going to be proving that your market value is going to extend beyond your current job description. An anti-fragile income design means diversifying your income sources, just like you diversify your investment portfolio. It could be your job, plus a small freelance income, plus dividend income, plus rental properties. And now, if one of those pillars were to shrink, you have the others to lean on. And then we want to get into the legal infrastructure and the quiet wealth wealth that nobody knows that you've got money. Somebody dies and you get a $500,000. Nobody knows that you got the $500,000. They might know that somebody died, but nobody should know that you got paid because somebody died. As your net worth grows, you need to upgrade your financial operating system. And this is going to be where basic legal infrastructure is going to come in, because if you start a significant side business or buy a large quantity of properties, rental properties, at some point it is going to be time for you to learn what an LLC is, which is a limited liability company, and why it is useful for separating your personal assets from the business liability. You can have your little side hustle that don't really do nothing, like instead of having a whole food truck company, you might just sell some small plates of food as you go out and hang out with folks. But when you start fulfilling orders where you have 5 or 7 plates a person, 10, 20 people a day that are pre-ordering your stuff, now you need to start thinking about starting a food truck restaurant, a delivery service, expanding on it, legitimizing it, and then backing that up. Right? This connects a powerful philosophy of quiet wealth. The goal is not to look rich, it is to be resilient, protected, and in control. Loud wealth buys fashion cars, posts vacation photos. Loud wealth is brand new Jordans that just came out, limited edition outfits, the swatch, whatever. But quiet wealth is setting up an LLC and not bragging to your friends and family about it or your neighbors. Quiet wealth is maxing out retirement accounts and updating your benefits. Quiet wealth understands that the most important financial moves are going to be the ones that nobody else knows is being done. It's about structuring your finances for long-term security, not for external validation. It's the difference between having a high income and having a high net worth. As your financial life gets more complex, your protective infrastructure must grow with it. So the final concept that we're going to burn through real quick, we got about 20 minutes. I'm going to try to get it done in 15. This is going to sound counterintuitive, but after all of the things that we talked about in discipline, we're now going to be talking to you guys about budgets for experiments. Now, pay attention. Here's how this is going to work for you. You're going to allocate a small, specific, and guilt-free amount of money to an experimental budget. This is money that you are giving yourself permission to lose. It's your budget for trying new things. Maybe you use it to invest in a new skill. Maybe you use it to try a small business idea. Maybe you use it to invest in a speculative asset that you've researched, Bitcoin or anything to that effect. The key is that it is a controlled risk. It is an amount of money that if it goes to zero will not impact your ability to meet your core financial goals. So what say you had an extra $1,000 a year worth of money that you could potentially put towards something that Elon Musk was trying to do. That could double your money. You can take the risk on that, and if it flops, you only lost $1,000. Where some of y'all will lose $1,000 in a casino and be like, oh, it's just a casino. I like to gamble. You know what it is. Nah. If you're going to gamble with your future in a way that you can reasonably perceive and guarantee on a return on your investment. Why is this going to be so important? Because the path to significant wealth is rarely going to be a straight line. It often involves trying things that don't work. An experimental budget gives you the psychological freedom to invite and potentially hit on something with a massive upside without ever jeopardizing a stable chassis that you built on the first half of the night show. And this is going to be the ultimate tie to the financial goal of life design. The entire point of all of this is not just to see a number go up or down in your account. It is to gain the freedom and flexibility to design the life that you actually want to live. Financial stability gives you options. It gives you the power to choose your work, your location, and how you're going to spend your time. So this isn't about restrictions. It's going to be about building a foundation so strong that you can afford to take calculated risks, to experiment, and to consciously build a life that aligns with your values. We've covered a lot of massive amounts of ground tonight. And if you guys are still here, you're serious about changing your life, let's bring it back to the central idea. Because we've got a step-by-step walkthrough in the membership on the YouTube side. For less than 1 cup of coffee a month, you can get into the membership. And every day of the week, you're getting all kinds of detailed information as to how you are capable of being successful. And the walkthrough for this is actually already in the membership. So the 30-year-old money reality check is a financial audit first and a strategy framework second. First, you build a chassis. You face the truth by calculating your net worth. You test your resilience by measuring your emergency fund. You map your risk by analyzing your debt. You audit your habits by calculating your savings rate. You benchmark your future by checking in on your retirement progress. And you protect it all with a solid layer of insurances and legal protections. This audit is the non-negotiable first step. It's replacing the vague anxiety with cold, hard clarity. Only then, once that foundation is set, do you begin installing the engine. You got to know that everything else is good before you start dropping anything else new in there. You shift from becoming an asset accumulator and you build an anti-fragile income structure. You embrace the philosophy of quiet wealth, not loud wealth. Not buying brand names because everybody knows them. You want to buy durability that you benefit from. So if you've got 35 or 45 pairs of J's in the house and 10 of them you don't wear, do you really need to buy another pair? Or could you invest in something that you can actually benefit from today that you don't already have a spare of? This will give you permission to innovate with an experiment budget, your research and development portion of your life. The feeling that you had at the beginning of the show, that quiet 2 a.m. depression, desperation, anxiety, comes from being a passenger in your own financial life. You felt out of control because you were. The audit you just performed puts you back into the driver's seat. You have the map and you have the dashboard. You now know exactly what you are and where you are and what you need to do. Turning 30-ish isn't a finish line. It's the starting line for the most important financial decade of your life. And the numbers that you have today do not define you. Your actions from this day forward will. The quiet desperation ends when the honest audit begins, and you got to map it. And if you map it, then it is time to drive. Steven says, are you saying this? I just added over $500 worth of Nikes to my trunk that I had my friend at work order for me. Yeah, I'm saying that if you don't have, if you have more shoes than you wear and it doesn't serve you a benefit, then you just wasted money by adding a $500 worth of Nikes to your trunk that you have your friend at work order for you when you could have put that $500 for something else. If you were buying $500 worth of Nikes that you were selling for $1,000 worth of profit, then you would be turning over a $500 profit. And yeah, that's an investment. You're buying Nikes because you like Nikes. You're buying Nikes so that you can wear Nikes for social validation, because the network that you have values Nikes, so they provide you with praise because you wear a different pair of shoes every day, literally, not figuratively. But once you build the reputation that you wear different shoes every day, at some point when you're seen wearing the same shoe too frequently, somebody's going to ask you about why you have that pair of shoes on again, since you're known as the guy that always has a different pair of shoes on every day, which means that this is part of your identity. It is not bringing value to you. It doesn't benefit your life at all, but because of shoes, that money could be going to something else. It could be going to fixing up your car. It could be going to upgrading your car. It could be going to fixing up your house. It could be going to upgrading your house. It could be going to learning a skill set, changing your diet, improving your diet, increasing your medical treatment, improving your insurance premiums for either your car, your life insurance, your health insurance. It could be going to something else, not just the shoes on your feet, right? Your habits are your habits. It's your personal choice. If you decide to spend $500 on shoes, you spend $500 on shoes. But if you understand that you could instead be using that $500 on Stash App for your IRA, where they're matching 3%, and you can put that towards getting a $255 a year return on your $7,500 investment, why not put it towards your retirement? Even if you didn't use Stash App, even if you use like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, where the premiums might be lower, you could be putting the money somewhere else, where instead of putting your money towards fashion, because fashion is external validation, you could be putting it towards something that you benefit from. You could be taking that $500 a month and putting it towards building up your savings, where you're paying your utility bills several months in advance. You could be paying your phone bill until the spring term, so that you can effectively be paying your phone bill out of your refund from your student loans or student grants and scholarships that get refunded to you every semester. You could be doing so many different things. You could be using that $500 to buy you a second computer. You could be using that $500 to start your website. You could be using that $500 website to do what I told you 2 months ago, which is sell your notes online for profit as digital downloads, starting an e-store for education, where you can have a second job that could turn into a small business that's self-functioning, that ultimately pays for itself, where you don't got to go to work every day. You get paid to advertise to other students that I've got a website that's got all the notes for all the classes. Now, instead of you walking around college campus wasting time, you're walking around the college campus marketing yourself. So if you're spending $500 on shoes, it is what it is. But you could have been spending that $500 on something else. And since I gave you the outline of the type of thing that directly intertwines with what you currently have, because you have 2 universities, not just one, the one you came from as an alumni and the one you're going to. And the market for this is enormous. And the ability to get the information is literally free. You can go to every teacher and just ask them for a syllabus. You can go to every student and ask them if they have a copy of their syllabus. And the majority of these things are on PDF files, so people will just send it for free. You have an outline of what that teacher plans on teaching. You can use AI software to generate a step-by-step guide, study guide for every individual concept on the syllabus. You can put it together in packets. You can sell them by the lesson, or you can sell them by the course and have people buying that stuff up, because a lot of people will pay for the notes so that they don't have to take notes in class. And you're working on a pain point and a luxury, turning a profit off of it, where all you have is website maintenance now, paying for the domain, paying for the service, and then setting up the links and setting up the payment option, probably PayPal, Stripe, Square, something like that. And now you can walk away from it, where you're just checking the emails to the website to see if anybody sends you an email that says, hey, I tried to make a purchase, but the link didn't work. That's the only thing that you're looking at, which is way better. Because now you work for yourself. You have little to no interaction with your clientele, but you're making money, make money for you off of your knowledge, your skill set, your networking skills on your university. We go to college not to get smart. We go to college to network. College is not about learning new things. It's about meeting new people and leveraging the knowledge that you have access to get more stuff. Why not use it? So if you're buying shoes, hey, buy shoes. It's up to you. I'm just telling you guys that there's solutions to your problems. I'm telling you guys that there's alternatives. I'm telling you guys that, well, where there is a will, there is a way. That if you have no will, there is no way. So I can give you guys knowledge and ideas and information every day of the week. Y'all not take it, and y'all still be in the same place in 2 years that you are in today. Or y'all can start reconsidering what y'all do, and y'all start trying to make some changes. And then you will see that this week, next month, next year, better than what it was before you started listening to me. That's all I'm saying. Steven says, all I need is a black pair of Timberlands, and my footwear is will be scratched for a good year. Okay. You could have got your pair of Oxfords. You could have got you 2 pairs of Oxfords for the $500 worth of Nikes and had you some custom shoes that would have lasted you for the next 10 years. Just saying. It is what it is. It's whatever you decide to do. With that being said, I got to wrap things up. I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. I want you guys to remember we're going to be back here tomorrow night around 11:30, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. So make sure that y'all try to dive in as soon as we get started, because we got you guys some updates on some of the concepts that we've been following. Fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills, as you just see. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, you too can take this information and improve yourselves. I fundamentally tell you guys to take the things that are inside of your control in your lives that you don't like and proactively put forth the effort to change that, and then navigate around things that are outside of your control. I tell everybody that you need to pay attention to your 20, 30-year plan, reverse engineer that to what you need to do today. As I've explained to you throughout today, that you have the capabilities of, if you were to steadfast on your goals, you would be able to navigate to them a lot easier, adjusting along the way. But ladies, if you follow a potential suitor that has the right drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, inspiration, the ones with the potential and the character, the personality that you're looking for, that also meshes well with their goals, the ones that are trying to achieve their own goals. You see what goals they have and what goals you have, and see how those two goals blend together, because y'all can accomplish each other's goals together when y'all have long-term satisfaction goals. The short-term gratification goals or living in the moment lifestyle does not benefit your future. But if you're partnering with somebody where you're trying to live for the future and they're trying to live for the day, y'all are always going to have a conflict of interest, right? And one of you will be subsidizing the other one's expectations, where you guys will always harbor resentment for one another. But like I showed you guys today, and I mapped it out, that 2 people can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it requires you guys to both have the same or similar financial values. So instead of finding out how deep his pockets is, you need to find out how his financial value is in line with yours. See where he sees his life and how he plans for his retirement. What is his exit plan to get out of the workforce, and see how that meshes with you. What is his retirement going to look like, and how do you fit in that? Y'all need to be paying attention to that instead of paying attention to how deep his pockets are. Now, fellas, y'all can do the same thing for the ladies. Where does she see herself in 20 years, and how does she plan on getting there? And if the first word is, I don't know, you already lost cause that one. But either way, I want a special shout out to Steven, Aztec, Unc, Andy, some of the most valuable members in our membership, Michael, OG Kicks, Joe Jack. I think I shouted out FX Trader, and if I didn't, FX Trader. I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And while we haven't gotten the stream key yet, we're working on it. And as soon as we get it, we get everybody in the same place. But until we do, I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.